Welcome, everyone. Thank you for your presence and your participation in today's Mid-Peninsula Water District meeting. We'll call the meeting to order and first we'll do establish a quorum. So,
Roll call. Okay, President Bella,
Here.
Vice President Zuka,
Here.
Director Schmidt,
Here.
Director Jordan. Here. Director Wheeler.
Here.
Yes, we have a quorum.
Excellent, thank you. So please rise. Chris, would you lead us in pledge of allegiance, please?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone. Public comment. DM.
Didn't have anybody submit any request to make a comment to the board tonight.
Good. So we'll move on to the agenda review. Any additions?
Nothing staff.
You know what?
I will want to abstain on the minutes, so the easiest to vote separate.
Okay, very good. And on the minute, there's a little minor typo. It's very minor, but I know it. It's on line 376,
What page is that, Louis?
page 12,
Page 12.
line 376. We stated that it was the meeting, right? What?
I did.
Well,
Didn't say, oh, typo. Like, you know, we read the minutes. That's all.
And I'm proud of you. Good job.
So thank you so much. Thank you. Right. All right. So we'll go to acknowledgement and presentations. Chris Michaelis, lead operator.
Yeah, so this is special. This is special. Chris and Michaelis has been with the district now 30 years. He celebrated his 30th towards the end of the beginning of the month, or middle month, 13th. Yeah. We were talking about it. We got together a couple of weeks ago, and he was mentioning me because I asked him when he started. He goes, "You must start when you got out of high school." He goes, "Nah, I spent a couple of years working with the city of Belmont, and you were part-time."
Part-time, 1,000 hour.
Trying to get some experience, right? We're all out of high school, you don't have any kind of experience, and so he worked for the city of Belmont, trying to cut his teeth, learn how to do work. And somebody there told him, "Hey, the water district's hiring, you ought to go apply," and he did. And he got hired in 1993, and he's been here ever since. That's a long time. You just don't see, people spend that much time as an employee. If you're a business owner, somebody like Kirk, had their practice and so on, you do that. But for people to be an employee a long time, and I know when I got here in 2015, one of the first things I heard is, "Hey, Chris is the guy that's always dirty," because he's the guy that will jump in the hole, and whether it's 20 degrees outside or 100 degrees outside, and start working on the water issue, whether it's a water leak or repairing a fire hydrant or whatever, is always one of the first guys out there. And we recently made him a lead operator just to acknowledge his experience and his dedication to the district, and we're proud of Chris. Now he's kind of taken over the lead to be responsible for our pump stations, the tank sites, the SCADA system, those types of things, which is a little bit different than we've done before. He's done a lot more field work, working on pipes and services and so on. So it's a little bit different for him, and hopefully, he's going to share his knowledge and skill set to the younger generation. We've got several young people that can learn a lot from a guy like Chris, so it's just been a real privilege to work with a guy, and I had an email with our uniform supplier, because Chris is probably one of the few people that will literally wear out his clothes, right? And so last year we got a new uniform supplier, UniFirst, and the salesperson says, "We're going to keep your guys looking great out there." And you guys, if they wear out their pants or shirts, just turn them in and we'll give you a brand new one, no cost, you know, other than they have a little prep charge. Hey, that sounds great. First person I'm thinking of is this guy, right? So here we are a year later, he's already turned in 2 pairs of jeans, right? I mean, and they were just worn out because he just wears them out. I don't know what it's like for you, Lisa, trying to keep clothing this guy, but when it comes to work, I mean, he wears out his clothes, and what caught my attention with the uniform outfit is they had kept his old pants and were charged us the rental fee for him. And I go, what the heck's this? You know, the guy turned him in, you know, you guys should have taken him off of his list of clothing. And then they wanted to charge us for the pants, like he lost them. I go, you didn't lose them. I'm not paying for that, you know, but just recognize the fact that this is the guy, if anybody's gonna ruin the clothing, it's gonna be Chris, because that's just the way he is. You know, so we're really proud of Chris, even though he's the hardest working guy and the dirtiest guy on the field, we're just really proud. And, you know, we have a good time with him. If you want to know something about history or what's going on around here, talk to Chris. If you want to know something that's going on in our water system, where things are located, where all the pipe is buried or the bodies are buried, talk to Chris. You know, it really is impressive that the guys, Jonathan's another person, Michael, Stan, these guys just know this system like they say, like the back of your hand. You know, you can ask them something about a particular water service someplace, and it may be something they haven't seen in several years, and a guy like him or a guy like Jonathan's gonna know everything about it. And that's really something, you know, and that's a legacy thing, you know, to share with the younger people, share them where all that stuff is. And you can't buy that kind of stuff. It takes just years and years of experience and caring. You know, he cares about what he does out there every day. He puts in his 9 hours a day now, but he puts in a full day work, and he's typically one of the guys that rotates on call. So he's there after hours, on weekends, in the middle of the night when there's an issue out in the community in the water system. So really proud of Chris, you know, and I'm glad he's here. And I'm glad that we're able to celebrate that his 30 years of service. We're gonna have luncheon for him probably in maybe October, November. Monique, I'm looking at Monique, because we've been talking about that. Just to celebrate that, and we'll invite the board if somebody has the free time at lunch. You know, we'd be glad to have you join us and celebrate this 30 years of service with Chris. I don't know if Jonathan, you spent some time with you. Want to say anything about Chris?
Yeah. No, he's definitely a leader out of the group. He set a great example for the new guys that came in, and
Yeah.
also guys like myself who came after him. I learned a lot from Chris, and continue to learn from Chris. So,
Yeah.
it is amazing when I see 30 years of experience. It's a lot of experience, and he's a great teammate to have. So
Yeah, just somebody you can count on. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, Chris, do you want to say something about your work experience here?
It's crazy. I mean, it's actually went by pretty fast. I remember getting hired, and that's when our office was up at Folger, and that was the boardroom and everything. And when we were looking for a new place, we actually almost bought this place here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was either gonna be this place or the place we're at now. And we picked the other place because it was just easier with the spoils bin and stuff.
Yeah, parking equipment is much
Yeah.
a larger area for
Yeah.
equipment, so. Yeah.
Yeah, when you said you were gonna rent this, I was like, we were gonna buy this.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's been a lot of changes. I was even just thinking about the board of directors that was here when I got here. I was like, oh, man.
When you think about, you know, Lewis and Matt have been on the
Yeah,
board
they've
for
been here a
20 years, a
long
long
time.
time, almost as long as you've been an employee,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah, but anyway.
Thanks for reminding me about that.
You get to dig in there, you're not president yet.
Painful reminder.
Painful reminder, yeah.
But he's right, you know, it does goes by fast, you know.
How many years did you have in before you?
I have 24.
24 in the fire
Almost
department.
25 years.
25 in the fire department.
Yeah, so, yeah, you have 5 more than I do. But, yeah, I enjoy having him come to the house, you know, with.
Oh, yeah.
We always have a little chat too.
Yeah.
Try to at least.
Yeah.
So thank you. 30 years is a long time. It is truly a legacy. But you know how you should look at it, Chris? 30 years is gone and the new 30 years are starting.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to look at it like that.
There's a whole life ahead of you.
Yeah.
Say here.
Yeah.
So retire for him, you know? There's another 5 ahead of you. Yeah, so enjoy that.
What
You had a
amazes
good
me
time.
is,
Yeah,
you know,
go ahead.
Chris has been here 30 years, but you never know it for as just enthusiastic and fresh as he always feels. You know, I've only been working with him for 1/30th of that career, but he's just, you can tell his, you know, love of the district and the
Yeah.
work just comes through in his attitude.
Yeah.
And, you know, his good attitude and patience when I'm asking him a million questions about SCADA and everything, and, you know, fortunately he has that patience with the, other
Oh, yeah.
newer folks too, asking a million questions, so, you know, I'm just really grateful and appreciative of all that, and also to Lisa for sharing him with us. I'm sure it's been,
You know, and it's been good. It turned into a really, really good career. You know, it always was like, especially when we went through COVID and stuff, it was like, I was thankful that he was working for something that we weren't going, oh God, we're not gonna have a check, you know, so it's like, that, I mean, I know how much he knows because I've heard, you know, phone calls through the 30 years. One that always gets me is when they're on call or someone else is on call and calls each other.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, this and that, like they don't, like you were saying, every street, I mean, I can hear it when they're talking. It's like, you know, it's like your other home almost, you know, you know your
Second nature.
city.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm very happy it turned into a great career for him. And he's been able to move up and learn how to do other things too. I think it's always great to grow.
Yeah.
And he's also the dirtiest. We're on a large animal evacuation team. So we go into fires and floods or whatever and get the animals out, and our group just got a barn or one of the old houses over at the Cow Palace. So we went over, we put up 40 new portable horse stalls in case we ever have a fire again, they were done. Guess who knew how to put everything together? It was Chris. He was the one that was like, let's just put one up, and then, you know, he was the one that knew how to get everything going. So he's in the same patience of showing somebody how to do something, so I'm blessed.
Got very strong work ethic, very, very strong work ethic. I'm glad I was here when he celebrated 25 years, 5 years ago, and I remember meeting his mom and dad.
Yeah.
You know, his father's no longer with us, but his mom's still around,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
hopefully, she might feel good enough to come and
Yeah,
be here for 30,
Yeah.
good to see her again, but, anyways, Chris, thank you for your service to the district,
Oh, yeah.
to the community, we really appreciate everything you do day in, day out for us, and you're, one in a million, dude. You really are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have here the certificate for you. We have a blank one framed, but we will swap it out with a nice signed version here after tonight.
I've never seen Chris like that photo.
No?
Really? It's on the website.
Yeah, no, I'm saying in like.
That
I
night.
didn't want to put it looking dirt like a thing off.
They kept
Yeah,
it
it
on
is
the
AR.
field that day for the photo.
That was like first thing in the morning. They're like, all right.
Shaved without a hat.
Yeah.
but I just have one fun story to share about Chris. I've only worked with you for almost 3 years. But when we got flooded out and we thought they were gonna have to wear respirators,
Oh, yeah.
or there was a chance they were gonna wear respirators, Chris went home and shaved. And when he came back to work, everybody was like, who is that?
That's right.
So that was the first time that you had shaved in how long?
A long time.
A long time. But anyway,
Even my kids, they were like, they saw our wedding picture, like, who's that? It's your dad.
it was great though. He was, and it turned out that we didn't need to wear or they didn't need to wear the
Yeah.
respirators, and he was like.
They just wanted me to shave.
But it was just, it's been really nice and fun to work with Chris. He is just one of the nicest people.
Nice guy.
I hope you guys took pictures of the before and after.
Yeah, Michael has a picture.
He bears a very strong resemblance to Mario,
Yeah.
Mario Brothers.
Yes. Michael.
He's the one that's known to plumbing, went into water service.
Yeah.
Close.
So, and he took it in stride.
You took it as right.
Good. All right. Well, congratulations, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your service. And now we'll move on to Jonathan.
Yeah, well,
And
Mr.
the-
Anderson
and the
here.
rodeo.
Yeah, the rodeo. Some of the board members, Lewis and Matt will probably remember back in 2018, Jonathan participated here locally in the American Public Works Association, the Silicon Valley chapter, they've been doing this now, how long, Jubin?
A decade or so.
A decade or so, where they will invite the local operators of equipment, you know, in the area here and have a competition. They set up a whole thing. They have cones with balls on them and they've got a time course. They got to pick up the ball with a backhoe bucket and try and do it here without, you know, knocking things over, and it's all timed. Looks like you've got the video. You want to try and set it up? I'm not gonna mess. But I'll just keep talking while Jubin sets it up. So, you know, Jonathan decided he wanted to try and participate again. I think this is what, the third time he's participated in the rodeo over the last several years, you know, and he did well enough. And the way I was gonna tell you folks is Jonathan doesn't operate equipment. You know, he's a lead operator for the district, but his job is to go out there and monitor water quality. He deals with issues of customers if we have a flood and it gets in their garage and those types of things. So he's rarely on a piece of equipment. Maybe if there's a water leak on a weekend, he happens to be on call, he might have to get on, but normally he's not on a piece of equipment. So he's still out there competing with people that their entire job may be to be on a backhoe 8 hours a day, and that's all they do, you know? But this guy has demonstrated enough of a skill set to qualify here in the Bay Area. And this year, the equipment rodeo, the national competition was down in San Diego. Right, so Jubin was down there, he's a member of the national committee or, you know, the board of directors for MPWD. And so I think Jubin's got a little video clip showing Jonathan.
Yeah, so this is at the national conference, which is really prestigious. Out of the entire country, each chapter sends their winners to compete at this. And so it's a very prestigious event. And the hardest part of this is you're operating an equipment that you're not used to, right? If you're not in a district, I mean, you're not on a backhoe that you're on every day, and these are brand new because equipment operators are showcasing their equipment, so it's brand new. There's no, you know, slack, you know, everything so it takes a little time to get used to it. And so and since it was in San Diego, my kids and wife came down, so my daughter was there watching watching Jonathan and my son, and they were really excited cheering for you, and you were concentrating, man. So I guess it's not coming up, but it was a good, you know, he did really well down there, and I think you placed third.
Oh, no.
No? Oh, I'm sorry, that was close. But yeah, no, he was right in the middle, but there was a ton of competition. Just being there is amazing, and you know, he did great, so great job.
We'll get a copy of the video.
Yeah, we'll come out around, technical difficulties here, but.
I went out the night before, so.
He was actually, we had a little get together of friends and stuff, and Jonathan was there with us, and we're like, I don't know if this is a good idea. We gotta like have a curfew like the Olympics. You gotta be in bed, you know, the night before and stuff. So
Are you allowed like a little dry run before to get used to the other?
No, it's all,
Seriously?
yeah,
Just-
it's just go. Yeah,
Wow.
so it's good. The winner actually repeated, so he won the year before. He's from Kentucky, so I mean, I think some of these guys have their own equipment at home, you know?
Yeah.
So you're competing against really good competition.
and it's not the same every year. It's not the same thing every year. The obstacle courses change, and you know, so it's quite fun to watch, but probably a little stressful to actually do
It's
it.
gotta be stressful if you're not used to doing it all the time.
But it's fun and the opportunity is great. You get to meet people from all over and kind of talk about the differences of what we do here versus what they do there. It's a great experience.
So next year, the national conference is in Atlanta, so he ends up placing again.
I hope so.
And yeah, it was better than
It doesn't get to California very often, like every 13 or 14 years. It's so expensive here.
Yeah,
Oklahoma.
He was in Kansas City.
Kansas City,
In 2018, Jonathan went to Kansas City to represent, yeah. So congratulations, Jonathan. We're proud of you for representing the Bay Area.
Our very own rodeo star.
All right. Very good. We'll move on to item 5, which is consent calendar. Any questions on that? Any comments?
We're taking minutes off.
Handling minutes, yeah. That's part of it. Okay.
I'll move the technology.
I'm moving the all that we're gonna vote for.
Okay, all right,
Second.
good. So, all those in favor, say aye.
For A.
For A. And you abstain?
Thanks, Scott. I do have a
Nay?
brief comments on the minutes,
Okay,
just the same page 12, and so the comments about, the point at the very bottom, the district should consider making more use of the city's social media presence, which I thought was a great idea, and I really hope we do that. Especially, I was thinking when the rains came in August, to remind people, turn off your irrigation, things like that, they have more of a presence than we do, so. So I just wanted to throw that.
okay. So now we'll take another vote
For B.
for B. Okay, so we need a motion? for B.
No.
I already moved, we already
All
voted.
those in favor? For B?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Okay, good. All right, hearing and appeals? None?
None.
Okay, we'll move on to the Mid-Peninsula Water District fiscal year 2016-21 capital improvement program. That's Cat.
Yeah, I can take this one. So we are here to, accept as complete the Hastings Drive Service Connection Replacements Project and authorize the recognition of a notice of completion for the project, so call it job well done. This was, if you recall, the job that, up in the hills, we had, you know, quite a bit of poly, service lines that just was degrading and breaking, and the, you know, crews up there constantly dealing with service line leaks, so they wrapped this one up into a big project to have a contractor go out and just do all of them preemptively. And it has a kind of a nice distinction of, actually coming in under budget by $9,000. Yeah, a little over $9,000.
Yep.
So can't hate that. And so, you know, if you vote to accept as complete, then we will go ahead, and file this, with the county, as well as, release the retention we have to the contractor of, almost $39,000.
You want to see, who's the paid everything, right?
Yeah, we got a letter to confirm it all.
Correct. So I took like a second look and a third look at this, because when I see change order, it means that the number is gonna go up. I saw
Yeah.
change orders and the number is going down. All right, I like this one. I like these kind of change orders.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. Any questions on this item? Hastings. Hastings is the one where the lady was complaining that she didn't have
Her sidewalk.
the patch.
Decided, yeah, she contacted you, right?
You don't need one.
I had one
That's
question.
the one.
It doesn't say in this portion, it probably came up earlier, but how many service lines were there for service?
There was 120 plus
Okay.
service connections, and a lot of them were dual services.
Right,
So there might have been a total of like 60 some odd, literally service lines from the main line to the meter locations, and they split.
right. Okay,
And we did that because typically we like to have a single service to each meter connection. But in this particular case, the Hastings, underneath Hastings is just rock. And we felt that if we try to put a connection for everybody, it was gonna take 2 or 3 times as long and cost 2 or 3 times as much. So basically, the contractor, what he did is he grabbed onto the existing service line, the poly line that Kat was talking about, had a splitting tool, and he pulled that through there. We shut the water off right on both ends, pulled the tool through there with the splitter, just kind of opened up, and then right behind his tool was the copper tubing. So we replaced the copper tubing in the same old trench, but just getting that polybutylene that was just, you know, breaking from time to time, just making a mess. So the services now should last a long time.
no, I'm just trying to get a feel for how expensive per service.
They're expensive.
It
was,
It's not cheap.
It was 7,000. So there were 61 services, but there were
61.
dual services, so each one had 2, and then each one was 7,000. It's on page, the details are on page 26.
It's just that a little bit hard to read.
Yes, I don't disagree. I
Need an
don't
electron
disagree.
microscope.
Yeah,
Right,
It was by design.
yes.
All right,
Thank you.
any more questions on this? The discussion, so I need
I will move approval
for the rules.
of the resolution as stated.
Okay, so I have a motion by Director Weaver, second by Director Schmidt. And roll call.
Director Wheeler,
Yes.
Director Schmidt,
Yes.
Director Jordan. Yes. Vice President Zuka.
Yes.
And President Bella.
Yes. All right, cool. Good, move on to item 8A. To approve the revised annual planning schedule for board of directors, and this would be AGM.
Yeah. So this is the, schedule you look at and adopt, or approve every year. We are suggesting two revisions. One is to just add to the schedule, the 2x2, or report out of the 2x2 meeting, now that that's a new thing. And we put that one in July. So we're gonna target July. And then the other is a question. I mean, this is your schedule entirely, but we've talked about shifting the strategic planning process. So you have in the attached yellow is all the, kind of existing elements of the strategic plan in the schedule. And then in blue is, a suggested revision for moving it later in the year. One thing we're thinking about is what's the right time with respect to development of the budget? They have some relationship to each other. Given that, the strategic plan identifies kind of tasks and guidance for the, next 2 years. And if there's, something particularly expensive in there, you're gonna want the budget to speak to it as well. In reality, everything's kind of developed all, over the course of the year anyways, all those things are identified, so how big of a concern of that timing? Maybe it's not that huge of a concern that one necessarily follows the other. So, for your consideration.
Very good. So this is for information only, right?
Well, it's to hopefully to get you to adopt a calendar that's the way you want to proceed next year so that we can plan ourselves, agendas in 2024.
Correct, and then this will change as we go along depending on what's going on, right?
It can change, yeah. It just kind of gives a little general idea.
But at least this will give us the framework.
Correct.
Yeah.
Typically in the past, we've done it's just been a consent item, but this year, because we were suggesting a couple different changes, we thought we'd let the board have a chance just to discuss if they want to make changes or not. It's up to you.
So in this revised version of it, we would actually take the budget and then produce in the following month, the actual strategic.
Yeah, well, budget
The
development,
budget's in May and June,
yeah,
and this would be in June, basically, this end of the year.
yeah, so it'd be somewhat concurrent, the plan would follow the budget a little bit. So it's a consideration. But I think doing the first look at the budget and the strategic plan at the same time is gonna be a lot of work to make happen at once, so.
So that's what that's May, June for that.
Given the format changes that we've made to the strategic plan, it looks like it is less of a task than it used to be. And is more reflective of what's in the budget.
We recall the history of the strategic plan process for the district. With the general manager prior to Tammy, it was kind of a guide for his kind of work schedule, something that the board used to keep an eye on the activities taking place with the district. And then when Tammy got hired, she just got hired at the end of the year. So the strategic plan then kind of evolved into an evaluation tool of the board of Tammy, and her work and so on. And so now it's it's an opportunity potentially to evolve into something different, or we can leave it where it is. We just wanted to see if you want to talk about, because again, this year, the strategic plan process just took so long because of the flood and everything kind of got in the way, and we talked about, says, well, you know, things have changed with the process, we've got it honed down pretty good. It may not have to take as long, and so maybe it might not be a bad idea for the strategic plan process to take place, or to kind of coincide, or kind of go side by side with the budget process.
My, one consideration is that July might be the month most likely to be missing board members. Maybe I'm just projecting because I was gone this last July. But if it isn't that big a list, maybe we should move it up a month and coincide with budget. Or maybe we do this and we see what happens next year.
Yeah, I guess in my head, I'm trying to play out, like, we've always met in January. We takes us a couple months, and then the budget process starts right after that. Typically, I mean, this year wasn't quite that way, obviously.
Yeah.
And, but I just don't recall the strategic planning taking too long. But I'm not also cognizant, I'm not behind the scenes, I've been showing up a couple times now. So I don't really have a preference. June to me feels a little late, and it feels like it's gonna get jammed to me. I don't know why my instincts tell me that that's gonna get jammed, because June is always like we're adopting things, we're getting big documents to review.
Sure.
That's when we adopt the budget and we get to,
And we may be looking at a rate.
rate adoption, and we're trying to get it in place for July 1st, and, we're always, the end of the fiscal year is a busy month, especially if we get big rating in San Francisco, and we're trying to get those things pushed through and whatever else. I think January was always kind of viewed as, we've just transitioned into the new president. They got December, it starts in January, whatever their agenda is, sort of would drive the special planning meeting. And then January was generally quieter, maybe not this last January. But June feels busy. I mean, June feels busy with just what I recall historically. I think we'll regret one year, maybe this last year would have worked, but I think we will regret having it in that transition of the fiscal year timeframe. Because I think we'll end up having other things that we're working on that are gonna be of higher priority. But I'm doing nothing more than staring at my navel, thinking, like, that's what it feels like.
Well, I mean, if I'm looking at the activities that we have planned each month, the beginning of the year is lighter, right? So my question was, if we did move it, I mean, it does seem like there's a lot of work for staff, like, we're gonna still show up.
Right.
But it'll be a lot with the budget and then the strategic plan, even if the plan is a lighter lift, it's still a lift, right? There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. So, and then if we move it, so in January, it doesn't feel like we have a ton to talk about. And then, I'm looking at February even, so I feel like the beginning of the year still makes sense to me. I'm also aware of summertime, people being gone, people going on vacation, and I think we want the 5 of us here when we talk about the strategic plan, if we can make that happen. That's fine.
So it looks like the preference is to move it to January.
Just keep it where it is, and then maybe just add the 2x2 meeting in there, so it's just kind of on our radar that's a calendar event for the board.
So this year was an anomaly. We'll go back to.
Yeah, I mean, this January we canceled it because you guys were trying to figure out where to live. I mean, I think that was fair. Huh?
Yeah, right.
Hopefully we won't have to go through that for another 100 years. Okay, anything else on this?
No, that works for us.
So, good. So, so this is for approval, so you need a vote on this one, right? Okay, so I need a motion.
Move to approve the schedule as originally designed,
Plus the 2x2.
plus the 2x2.
Right.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Vice President Zuka All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion passes. Okay, we'll go to item 8B.
Full of good news on this one.
Mr. Julian.
Yes, so over the last few months, about 6 months now, we've been slicing and dicing data from the district's GIS and the pipe information available in there. We originally did this analysis in 2016, and that was a really good time to do it because that was right before we ramped up our capital program. We had analyzed the system at that point. We had come up with a list of projects. So there was several years in 2013 to 2015 where we were ramping up for our capital program. So 2016 was when right before we started construction, right? So that seemed like it was a good time to look at our system in this way and really dive into what is the age of our pipes, not average age, but also per type of pipe, because that makes a difference because some pipes fail in different ways, and I'll get into that in a minute. So in 2016, we dove into it and dug into the information, and this felt like right now, as the COP is wrapping up, as we're looking at a rate study coming up next year, and then look at our capital expenditures, it felt like a really good time to relook at this and see how we did and how this compares to looking forward. After I put this together, I actually got together with Director Zuka because he did something similar in Palo Alto and just got some input from him, and you could really slice and dice this in a lot of different ways, and he had some good input. I couldn't quite make it work with the way he wanted it to look like, but I think
The napkin that I drew up in chart didn't work. What the heck?
I think the information is there, and we can certainly slice and dice it any further, but the 30,000 foot level summary, and I'll get into the details, is that here we are 7 years later, right, from 2016 to 2023. The pipe should be, on average, if we didn't do anything, should be 7 years older. And they're only 5 years older. So we made a difference. We slowed down the curve, but nowhere close to where we want to be. And I understand that there's absolutely, this is a perfect world scenario numbers that I'm giving you, and in the reality is there's budgetary, there's constraints on rates and those kind of things. So in no way am I recommending, to jump to this level of expenditures, but I think it's fair for the board to understand where we sit now as far as our infrastructure goes. So the paragraph there summarizes everything. Essentially, our pipes were 47 years old in 2016. Right now, as it sits, they're 52 years old, and I'll get into the details in a minute. And the linear footage of pipe that we needed to replace in 2016 to keep up with the replacement of these pipes before they expired was 11,900, and now we're at 14,800. Because we weren't able to keep up with the 11,900, it expanded out. So Arena, if you can go to the next page, I'll dive into the details, and I'm sure the board members will have a ton of questions here. But what I did was I took all the data from our GIS and I broke it down to pipe materials into our 5 big pipe materials, which is AC, asbestos cement pipe, cast iron pipe, ductile iron pipe, PVC, and steel. There are some pipes in our system that either we don't know what they're made out of or their age when they were put in. So I lumped all that together, and that's about 4% of our pipe. At the very top, what I did was I put in the life expectancy of these pipes. You'll see that AC has a lower life expectancy than the other pipes. And this is a distinction here because these pipes will not fail the same way. Cast iron pipe, as it gets closer to the 100-year time frame, is not gonna, all of it is not gonna fail catastrophically all of a sudden together. We'll get more leaks. The frequency of those leaks will become more. We'll have essentially we'll have more single breaks in them. AC pipe, on the other hand, does tend to fail catastrophically in that it just the integrity of the pipe starts, it turns into, probably the best way, non-technical way I could say it turns into mush. It's like clay and cement, and the cement is leached out and the pipe loses its integrity. So it's not point areas where, like cast iron, where you're gonna get a bunch of leaks swinging everywhere. The whole pipe starts, collapsing on itself. So that helps us with how we prioritize our capital program, being that not only is it only a 75-year time frame, but that has more of a catastrophic failure in that all of it might go at the same time. So on that chart is essentially the summary. Our AC pipe, the average age is 58, cast iron 68, ductile 40 years old, PVC 34, and steel 66. So what I'm saying there is, even though our cast iron has an average age of 68, I'm more worried about the AC than I am about the cast iron as we start programming into the capital program. The 30,000 foot level, the point I just want to get across to the board, we can certainly dive into the numbers, and I have all the Excel spreadsheets that you want, is those three green things there, right? One is that our average, this was done in 2023, our average age is 52 years old. And really, for us to keep up with our capital program at today's cost, it's about $7 million of capital expenditures just on pipe. We're not talking about pump stations, we're not talking about tanks, we're not talking about this building. This is just pipes. And and that number is not going to get less, it's only going to get more, because we're not putting in 3 miles of pipe a year right now. We're not set up for that, we're not budgeted for that. And also the cost of the pipe will go up. And so I wanted to, I could spend all day on this, but I just wanted to give you that analysis where we sit now as you move forward. Please consider that as you're looking at the budget and especially the rate structure.
Okay, I just want to add on to what Juben said, because he and I did meet. This is an analysis that we did in Palo Alto. Is trying to get away from, especially the pipe stuff, looking at it like a project and looking at it like an asset that has a life cycle. And so we basically went through and looked at all of our, the sewer side, and I'm in the process of doing it on the water side. Looked at all of our VCP pipe, looked at the age, laid it out. What's the curve look like? What's the rate of replacement? We the year it got put in, what the average year was, a bunch of it got put in with sort of a 20-year span. What would the oldest pipe be that we took out of the ground under scenarios, and what and sort of laid out all these options and came up with, we need to do 2.5 miles a year. And we went to council, this being Palo Alto, we have money, passed rates to do 2.5 miles a year. And we basically passed 1 year, but it was, we built it into a rate model. So on top of the not just the engineering analysis, we went to council and said, this is where we want to go. It's 2.5 miles a year. Here's why. This gets us, I think we project the oldest pipe that we'll take out of the ground will be 107 years old at that rate. Sorry, 113 is where we ended up. So we're borrowing into the life expectancy of the pipe by 13 years, effectively. A bunch of the questions I got, well, 13%, that's a big deal, no problem. It's like, every year at the end of a life expectancy is not the same as this a year. Not all years are created equal. You're dragging, every year you drag out is the worst year of that pipe, right? It's going to be the most SSO, the most, on the sewer side, and here would be the most main breaks, the most leaks. And so we built it into the rate model, and we said it's going to be four nines. We're going to need 9,999. And then we think 666 at 8 going on in perpetuity. But we have a plant there too, so there was other factors. We didn't quite get that, but we only approved, we approved 1 year of 9, and the council came back and sort of said, we could probably live with 9,966. Well, that's a future approval that I'll fight then, right? So we walked away with our sort of 2 9s and called it a win. But we're sort of getting into that, like everything's in there. We started adding projected recurring costs for pump stations. So if it's a 10 million, the rule of thumb that I've used in my career is if I'm investing $1 million on a pump station, I spend 10% of the cost every 10 years on maintenance, and repairs, and there's sort of recurring cost component to it, that's a 30 to a 50-year asset. And then you sort of assume that you're gonna have a maintenance cost and you're gonna have a big slug every 10 or 15 years. And at 50, you're gonna make sure you replace the entire asset. We start trying to build that cost into it as well, because at the end of the day, we're setting rates for some future need that we haven't established yet. And if we're doing it on a project basis, it doesn't become a project until it starts to fail. And then at that point, we're dealing with rates and we're just playing catch up. So to me, this is the way I like the plan is, kind of trying to lay it out. The part of the picture that's missing is the rate implications. Right. So I don't care about the 7 million. That's not the issue that bothers me. Make it 10. What's the impact on the rate? If it's 2%, 10 it is, right? If it's 20%, maybe 10 is not the right number for the time being, but maybe we get there over 5 years. Maybe we get there over 10 years. I don't know what the progression looks like. I also agree with Juven that the AC is what worries me the most. We in Palo Alto, I think 70% of my water distribution system is AC pipe, and it's 40 years in. I got a big slug of pipe to replace in the next year, and it's not going to be pretty. So me looking at this, I would be comfortable borrowing in the CIP costs to get rid of AC. So even if we're talking about, let's at least get it up to 3 million a year, so that we're targeting the asbestos concrete. I think there's permutations in here, but to me, I'd like to see iterations on this next that have good rates. The benefit I have in Palo Alto is the rates we do there in-house too. So I had the rates team, part of the team that was doing the planning, and all of this was happening concurrently. That's sort of my 2 cents worth, because I think it's a good planning number. Even if we don't agree to the rate increases now, at least we know what we're shooting for. We have some stakes in the sand to say, no, I'm not comfortable with 15 or whatever this is going to translate to in rates. And we know what we're borrowing in terms of our the actual life expectancy of the asset.
So the rate, sorry.
No,
go ahead.
The rate component is coming. We're working on that. This is sort of the one component that feeds into the rate model. And the couple of other things I wanted to mention is that the item that makes the longest or the biggest difference on analysis like this is the life expectancy, right? And what we're doing is we're talking to vendors that are able to provide non-destructive analysis of life expectancy on existing infrastructure. Because if we can adjust and say, okay, we have a 68-year-old cast iron pipes average age in the ground, but we test them and we say, okay, we thought, everything in the textbook says they're going to last 100 years, but our pipes haven't degraded to the point where, there's it's 150 instead of 100. I think that will really allow us to fine tune this further. So we're gaining, and there is a lot of acoustic technology that is coming out just for that purpose. So we had a brown bag last week on it. We have another vendor that's coming in, and they're actually able to do AC too, which one of your engineers was there too. So that's one component. The other component I wanted to mention is our tanks. The other huge expenditure for us is repainting our tanks and the tank coatings. And so we have an annual, we're going to be looking at that. We have someone coming in 2 weeks, a firm, to look at half of our tanks and provide reports on the life expectancy left on the coating. Each tank to recoat, depending on size, could be millions of dollars, both tanks together. So knowing how much life we have left is really important. Getting back to what Director Zuka was saying, looking at this holistically on a life cycle is really where we need to go. And that's what we're trying to provide. This is a first step. I think it's a good first step. We're fine tuning it. We're going to add tanks. We're going to add pump stations and fine tune it as we go down the road. But the number is not going to significantly go down, so that's it's there and we'll fine tune it, but that's something to kind of keep in mind.
Didn't you have a test case coming up, or it was supposed to happen this year, where they're gonna do some sort of sensor pig operation in one of the lines up near Homa? It was going to look at corrosion and
The main assessment.
the main assessment.
Oh, yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
It was for our transmission, main that feeds the entire system from our pump station in Crystal Springs
Right,
all the way to Hallmark. And actually that's a ductile iron pipe, and it showed that we have some minor areas of concern, but overall it's actually in really good, condition.
mhm.
And
I think the biggest thing that we found with that exercise is we need to install some air relief valves in different spots along this. So right now, we're working with the SFPUC to get permission to go out there and put those air relief vacuum valves on that pipe. That was the biggest thing, because that adds some inefficiency to the pipe and makes the pumps work harder. When there's air in the line. We can't get it out.
You're coming pretty steep.
Yeah, it's like a 600-foot lift.
Yeah.
and shame on me if I didn't, I'm so sorry. I thought I presented that to the board. I guess I must have not done that. So I will put it on the agenda and make a very brief presentation on the results, because I think that's really important for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about it getting done, but I didn't remember specifically that we had a detailed report about it.
We do, and I could certainly share that, and then share it with the board. I apologize for that. I guess everything was okay, so I didn't.
Well, that.
But that's the type of technology that you're talking about, not necessarily exactly the same technology, but something similar to evaluate some of the older pipes in the system to see what they look like, the cast iron and the asbestos.
We wouldn't do all of them. We would take a statistical, sample of it and go from, but yes, non-destructive, acoustic.
Was the Mueller didn't involve an insertion, did it? The technology?
No, so it's a different, once we hone down on the technology, I was gonna make a presentation on the board. The reason we inserted something into that pipe was it was such an important pipe for us. We wanted to know pinpoint exactly where there was corrosion on that. The technology that we're looking at is more a noise or acoustic, from hydrant to hydrant, and they give us, you have roughly 33% life left in this 300 feet. So it's not gonna tell us you're gonna leak here or you're gonna leak here. It's just more of
An average.
an average over that period, which for this analysis, I think that's good enough. But for that transmission main, because that feeds our entire system, we really wanted to spend the money and get it tight, so.
Is that main buried all the way, or is that exposed somewhere?
It's buried all the way.
All the way up?
Yeah.
Underneath 280, and so it's a pretty, it's a very, and plus the other bonus of that one was we found out exactly where our main was. So we have it, because it's through open space, so we didn't know where it was, so they gave us a GPS, so we're gonna actually put markers now. If San Francisco lets us, permanent markers, so we know where our, so that was another added benefit.
Any more?
Yeah, this is really interesting. I feel a little better reading this now. A while back when you said we were on a 200-year replacement rate, something like that. And then I see, well, we got an average of 43 years left of lifetime. This stuff, it wouldn't make sense to pull out pipes that have plenty of lifetime left. So I would almost think that there must be a best practice on this, where when should you start pulling out? It's kind of soon towards the end of the life, but not waiting too long, so then you have to scramble because things are failing on you right and left.
Yeah. That's where some of this new technology Jim was talking about. You know, we're using acoustic waves and the difference between the types of pipe material transmits the waves differently, and they've got it down to science, so they can say, look, if you had a perfect pipe, brand new pipe, and you send this wave in there, it should get to the next point, and we should be able to read and say, yeah, that's pipe's got 100 years left. But now you send it a little bit later, and the pipe's older, it's got maybe some, not even tuberculation, but maybe it's getting thinner or whatever, the sound wave gets, you know, it changes, and it might take a little bit longer, and they've been able to correlate that to, you know, a potential life expectancy of the pipe. And so they're saying, look, instead of, you know, when we did this back in 2016, we took a look at, you know, how many maintenance activities did we have in a certain section of pipe, you know, and what was the street condition, you know, when was the pipe installed, things like that. They're saying, that's great, but, you know, what if you can find out that, hey, you know, even though you've got all that criteria, that pipe still has 50 years left on it, and you want to go replace it now, you're wasting money. You know, you got better use to put that money someplace else you really need
Yeah,
it.
that's the real worst one, yeah.
Yeah, and so, you know, we're looking at some other technology, hopefully help us pinpoint it so that we make the best use of the money that you give us to go out there and replace pipes.
Absolutely.
So we would, with that information, or as much as we know, I'm sorry, you're gonna say something?
No,
Jim?
I'll just go ahead and finish.
With as much information we can get as to the lifetime of the pipes, we can kind of figure out when ideally the replacement should occur.
Yeah.
It's still gonna cost a heck of a lot of money at some point. Maybe it's not us now in these next few years when we got 40+ years of lifetime left, but at some point. And the other question in my mind is who pays for this? We've bonded out a lot of our capital with the idea that it's the people who are gonna benefit from the capital work that should pay for it, so bonding is fine. I don't know if we wanna keep up with that concept with this, or do we wanna try and do some financial planning in advance? I'm not sure how that fits what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, in Palo Alto, we're not bonding because we look at it as,
That fall.
yeah, I understand. I'm just saying, giving. It was only a 9% rate increase. We've done worse here. But the reason for it is when we're done with this round, we're just gonna start again. So why bond something like that? That's what you cash finance. If we had to bond anything, it would be, we have a massive grouping of them that all reach the end of their useful life at the same time. So we set rates on the average rate that we need to achieve. If all of a sudden I've got, I'm gonna make this up, 5 square blocks that are all gonna fail in the same 5 years, I would bond finance that spike and spread it out. But in terms of something I'm not gonna be retired when we hit the edge of the planning horizon that I just put, I'm not gonna be working. I'll be 30 years retired by the time we hit the planning horizon. I mean, that last pipe gets replaced. So we tried to figure out a rate that would smooth the curve, but that curve is gonna look like, if you take the actual life, this is an average, you know, and you actually said, okay, I wanna get rid of on that 100th year, the last pipe, that when it hits it, it's not gonna be a smooth curve, right? It's gonna go up, there's gonna be a whole bunch of pipes that were installed in the same year, and it's gonna drop down, and then it's gonna go up and it's go down, so that it's gonna be plus or minus 10 years, we might, you know, it's gonna be a smooth curve, right? And that's where I think getting it toward personally, if you can get there, get it towards a cash financing. And then if you have a slog, that's what bonding for. But that's absent any rate information. Right, that's just the philosophy of it. And then you get the rate information and it's like, well, yeah, it's a nice smooth curve, it's just gonna be a little bit lower slope.
But when you start smoothing that curve is still my question.
So, yeah.
As I look at this, 43 years, we could not worry about this for 20 years. Or we could start worrying about it now, trying to smooth the curve now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Testing on it.
The money is one aspect. The other aspect is the reality of do we have the infrastructure in place, infrastructure being human infrastructure and inspection and design and the capacity to actually build, you know, all the pipe that, if we wait 20 years. So right now we're putting in a mile of pipe a year. We have been historically, right? A mile and a half. So we're talking about if we want to hit this, you know, plan, 3 months. So that requires more design, more inspection, more strain on our existing staff. So staffing up to be, you know, being able to handle that. So it's the money and also the in-house infrastructure and getting back to Director Schmidt, your original comment. So American Water Works Association has their best management practice and other water works folks say you want to be on a 100-year cycle, replacing pipe once every 100 years. So there is those best practices out there. It's just that that's on the textbook side and that's what they say. But if we can stretch that out by actually analyzing the assets that we have in the ground, then that's great, which is what we're trying to do.
And I'm guessing your age distribution is probably like what it is in Palo Alto, because the peninsula kind of got built out on the same scale. I have cast iron pipe in the ground that was put in 1925, listed as such. That averages, and that happened probably until the 60s and 70s when AC pipe started going in. So on average, I've got 39 years remaining. I've got stuff that's 100 years old. I could start today, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So I think the average is deceiving, and I don't know what our oldest pipe is, but my guess would be it's
I think,
probably.
I think early
pretty
forties is.
Okay.
Well, we have a small piece here on, we're also between Old County Road and Elmer. That was put in 1937, according to the stuff I've seen in our map books. I think that's the oldest piece of pipe we have.
Yeah,
And it's coming out with the Old County Road.
Yeah,
But your point is well taken, that if it's not, if we're at 70, do I really care?
right.
If I'm at
Yeah.
90, by the time I plan it and get it, I'm only losing maybe 5 years. And 100, let me tell you how precise that number is. The 100-year life expectancy. Right, I mean, it's just a guess. It used to be 50, remember when it was 50?
Yeah.
And everybody's like,
Yeah.
we can't afford to replace this every 50 years, let's make it 100. That's all the planning that went into 100,
Yeah.
because it used to be 50.
So I have two other questions. The 4% unknown, is that a scary unknown? Is that like
No,
1920s or something like that?
no, I think it's just GIS, information wasn't inputted into our GIS, properly or, so it's not necessarily older pipe that's unknown. It could be that we don't have the right size. We have the year, but we don't have the size. We have the size, we don't have the year. So it's not a 0 to 5% is pretty normal to be with. I mean, I'd like it to be 0. I'm an engineer, right? But it's, I mean, out of, 400 or 500,000 feet of pipe, 20,000 isn't necessarily concerning.
Okay, and then finally, when we have increased demand placed on our system, somebody builds a huge project. We have a capacity charge that is placed on them. Does this need for replacement get fit into a capacity charge?
Right now, no, it should be. Right now, it's not, because we didn't have it in, it would have been based upon whatever depreciated value our distribution system had, I would imagine, not based upon, an estimated replacement cost. If I'm recalling correctly, when we did the capacity charge, that was a while
That was
ago.
a while ago, yeah.
I don't know that we had in there a full replacement.
And maybe it was okay in the past when, because up till now, we haven't charged anybody.
Yeah.
But if we're going to start incorporating our rates, it should happen to the capacity charge as well. I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely, I 100% agree, it's definitely something we need to think about in terms of, any new development coming in. And when we're looking at the end of the useful life, can we require any new development to change out sections of main? Otherwise, I mean, obviously, there's gotta be an exit, all of the other fairness or equity issues, equity in its current incarnation.
You mean in front of their development?
Yeah, further development, and I like what we did with, remember with PAMP, which started your whole tenure here, right? It's like, how do we deal with some of that? Because not only is there a connection fee, but then there's, what do they need to do to support what they're providing?
I recall when that discussion was had, especially for the development here, on OCR. Some of the fees already cover that, so it would almost be a bit of double,
Yeah,
double, I wouldn't say double dipping, but it would be charging twice for, they're buying into the system, they're buying, paying for that replacement of, and then, so what we've done in the past, and I'm not saying that's correct or not, or maybe if they need any capacity increase.
Yeah.
So if there's an 8-inch there and they need a 10-inch, which is what happened with PAMP, they needed a bigger pipe to be able to serve the hospital. They paid for that, because the existing system was fine. But it wasn't because it was old.
well, yes and no, not to put too fine a point on it, but the recommendation at the time was that we were gonna rely on some 80-year-old undersized cast iron pipe, single point of failure to feed a hospital. And we're like, no, we're not, and that was part of it, is that it was old and one pipe. And we needed redundancy and interconnect and newness, and so that was, I think, what my concern was at that point, was I don't wanna have a main break and take a hospital down. Right. Because I'm feeding it from one connection. In fact, I'd like to loop it and give it 5 different feeds, so that I can, so
That's on the books.
Yeah.
And we're gonna run into that with Stanford campus, right?
All right, anything else?
Yeah, I just have one comment. I I think this is all really interesting and what I'm hearing, and I just want to make sure I'm hearing and understanding is when I see this, it's interesting data, but how we move forward is kind of the question. And when I met with Captain Renna yesterday, we talked about, you guys are gonna come back with the rate study, but there's also different financing options. So I'd like to see, like, what are our different options to pay for this? And what's the best path forward in terms of, you know, replacing the pipe? And the Stanford campus is a really good point. I don't know where all of these things are located. I'm sure you do. There's gonna be a whole lot of development, I think, in the next few years, once they start redeveloping that campus. But if we can somehow piggyback on that as well, I'd like to see the options for replacing what is a short-term versus long-term plan, and then the different financing options. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because we will be doing the water supply assessment for the Stanford project. And yeah, it's going to consider what that's going to do to our entire system, as well as what are the redundancies associated with the campus they're planning and what they connect to.
We want to make sure our fees are in place before those major developments.
Yes.
On the infrastructure and the water supply.
Right.
Assessment. So, Jubin, briefly, you were talking about you reduced the age factor of certain lines. What was the comment about earlier on? You basically,
Even though it's been 7 years,
Oh.
we've reduced it only 5 years.
right, I didn't reduce it, we did it all together
No, no,
by spending money, but essentially, we're 7 years now down the road. And if we hadn't done anything, our pipes would be 7 years older. But our pipes are on average only 5 years older, so meaning that this money that we spent,
all right,
Because you've replaced a bunch of.
right, exactly, so we were able to reduce the average age
good.
on somewhat, if you
That's what
look at it that way.
we did advocate. Good. Yes, if you can translate that to people, you'll be a billionaire.
I'm just a lonely engineer.
All right, anything else with this topic? Good discussion, good, very helpful discussion, and this is for info at this point, correct?
Yeah, at this point.
And we'll see it again.
Probably incorporate into the rate analysis that we talked about.
Yes, and that report about that transmission name as well.
Yep, I have it down and we'll bring it back on a future.
Excellent. Very good. All right, thank you, Jubin, and then now we'll go to the scheduling special board meeting in October to receive report from Noel and Tam Architects.
Yeah.
AGM, yes.
So we've been working very closely with Nolan Tam, weekly meetings, lots of back and forth. We actually had them come to the district. We did a lunch and learn kind of a thing with staff where they were able to present kind of our, conceptual design at that stage to everyone, and we all talked about it, got some good feedback and some really good, practical considerations that we were able to go through. So, iterating for a couple months now. And so now we have, really good concept of, meets all of our needs and all of our wish list items, and it's, the Cadillac, and it's beautiful, at conceptual design, and we have now been getting, the cost estimates associated with that Cadillac design. And then we're working to break it down into different scenarios and what's gonna, potential for us to consider. So we think it's the time to bring it to you all, have a, study session in the evening with Nolan and Pam, go through everything. We're gonna have a lot of conversations about financing in the next few months between rates. We have this project and, we're looking at some other, kind of capital related projects and asset related projects that, doing a lot of, research on that as well. So, and, especially when I've been going to conferences, with the CSGA, Monique and I both, and we're talking about everyone any kind of creative financing idea that's out there, we're trying to learn a bit about it, so, so part of that, we're having lots of meetings and gathering some information. Cause it's, you know, my guess is it's gonna be a combination of a lot of funding mechanisms, to achieve what we need to. So what we need to do this evening is pick a date.
Okay, before we do that, so you are getting the whole staff, and everybody, all the employees involved in this, right? What's the general feel of the employees? I mean, when they look at it, do they feel that they're gonna be happy with it, they can see they're excited about it, they don't care, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're excited. I think, you know, right now, especially because we're in such like a weird kind of limbo state, they're particularly excited. You know, I think, you know, I was thinking about, you know, people who've been here for decades, they had such, obviously, an attachment to the old building that was, you know, their home for the last almost 20 years, right? And they, you know, obviously took it quite hard, right? But even they are, you know, excited, looking forward, to see what it looks like, you know, we're gonna, I don't know, add locker rooms. That definitely size we'll look at and consider, but, you know, we don't have a locker room facility, like, that's just a day-to-day improvement. We want, you know, a break room where we can all really gather and meet, you know, proposing one that like opens into a training room, so we can have a very, you know, nice large meeting space as well. So, you know, things like that, it's like, yeah, they can see like day to day like that, would just make things nicer. So.
All right, good. Well, as long as, you know, they, especially the employees, they don't feel that they didn't have a chance to say their piece. I mean, obviously, not everybody's wishes are gonna be there, you know, we have to, you know, balance, compromise a little bit, but at least they would have a chance to actually do that, because after all, you know, they're gonna be in that building the most, you know, so.
We spend a lot of time there.
Exactly.
We spend a lot of time there.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they've had several opportunities, several different ways. We started like, with kind of, you know, a survey as well as individual. We've met with, in particular, supervisors a couple of times. We've had, you know, a couple walkthroughs with the architects as well, with several staff to go through. So, you know, there's been a lot of engagement towards it at a bunch of different points, so.
Good. Any other comments on this? Okay, yeah, I think it's time, you know, that you take a look at the time, because I have no idea what they look like, and I'd love to see them. So, I'm gonna go first, and I'll, you know, October 12th is definitely out for me. October 17th is an iffy, October 19th is yes.
Seventeen, 19 work for me.
Okay, cool.
The 17th works for me.
I'm good for all three.
All right. So we have 19 is everybody but you? Is 19, are you good?
I don't think so. Yeah, it's like that. I'm definitely not available on the 12th. The 17th I am available.
Okay, so the 12th is not, the 12th is out. Or between the 17th and the 19th. For me,
I have a finance committee meeting on the 17th, but I don't think I need to attend. So we'll see. We can book it on the 17th. I can do either of the day.
you can make us swing the 19th.
We can book it on the 17th. That's fine. I normally don't need to, but
17th.
Oh.
It's very, very truly interesting.
I'll have to see what we could do. I'm out of town, I'm out of town on 12th, and then potentially on the 19th and 20th.
I'd like everybody to be there. Okay, so I'll change whatever. So 17th? Sure. It's a Tuesday? 17th? Cool, all
Yep.
right, so,
All right.
that's it. All right, beautiful, thank you. So, get rid of here. So that would be 6:30 or earlier, or
We can do whatever works, we can do 6. we can
Well,
do 6:30.
okay, we'll have a couple of time.
Yeah.
What do you think? The architects are okay. Whichever time,
Yeah, they
Any
didn't
of
have
those
any
2 days.
particular constraints, they come from Berkeley, so.
okay. So shall we meet maybe a little bit earlier, like at 6? Sure, 5:30? That's good for you?
I mean, I can make it by 5:30, but it's cutting it close, if there's any traffic, I'll be late.
6? 6, at least we'll get half an hour.
Yeah.
All right, 6 it is.
Then we'll do dinner and, maybe to,
So we're talking about October 17th. That's 6 p.m. So we have a long meeting. Right.
Are those the only 3 dates the architects have?
they have some availability. I was up there, so there's one date that I took off the table because I have a mosquito district board meeting, but I don't ever miss meetings, so. I'll have to confirm with them, but Wednesday, the 11th. If that works on now.
I'm out of town, pretty much. I'm out of town that whole week.
Yeah, I definitely.
How about Wednesday, the 18th? Do you know if that might work? Or is the Wednesday, the 18th out for you, Louis? Are you out of town?
I think the 18th didn't work.
It didn't work.
them.
Wednesdays usually are not good. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thursday is the
Yeah.
best, it's always the best because I know I'm here on Thursday, either here or Boston.
Yeah.
So that's why I was shooting for the 19th.
Yeah, the architect could not do the 18th.
Okay.
What about after? Like 26,
Or before, you can schedule,
second,
could come in a little early.
I'm in early.
Or before,
Yeah.
Ah,
if the
I mean, if we're
architect-
how long do you think that meeting like that will take?
Depends how detailed we want to get. I was, kind of assuming 2 hours. And, we could,
We could just plan on a very light board agenda meeting
Okay,
and maybe focus on this.
so this will be the 26th, right? Okay,
October 20th.
so we'll come, we'll do like 5:30, we'll start. And
That doesn't change your traffic situation.
No. But what I'm saying is that, if you are a little late.
That's fine.
That's good
You
work.
missed the pledge of allegiance.
Yeah,
And pictures of flood,
Right.
yeah,
You don't have to do it.
we're
It's
not
dark
going on the
either.
past, looking forward. No flood picture.
I'm just joking and trying to think of other things I don't need to see.
Okay, so if we start
So
at
how
5:30,
about that?
it'll be-
Yeah, that would work since we have a meeting that night.
yeah.
I mean, I know that some of us do work, but is there an option to do it during the day? About, not a night meeting? If that makes it.
I have to take
flexible.
PTO, so.
Yeah, I would too. I would
Okay.
have to take them off as well.
We can, I prefer not to,
Well, then it's then we'll do the 26th.
It's just
So
that
we'll do it 26 at 5:30. Matt, you understand, maybe a few minutes late. He was on time today, so.
And just,
Hopefully.
I thought you could schedule a special board meeting where you just talk about that, but you could agendize it in your regular meeting if you need to
Continue.
keep talking.
Oh,
I'll have to ask you how to do that.
okay, good. So the 26th now. And you need to check with the architects, right?
Yeah, that was not a date after that.
And hopefully, since we put it back a little bit, hopefully it will be fully okay. All right, cool. So this. All right. Good. That's it on that?
Yep.
Well, so they will have probably, the plans and the
The presentation,
details and all of that,
a virtual presentation.
Virtual?
Well, I mean, virtual, they'll have some,
Yeah, but they'll be here.
they'll be here, they'll be here.
All right, very good. So everybody got that? For the same meeting is that, okay, good. All right, we're gonna move on to the BOSCA update. The meeting that we had for BOSCA was happened to be yesterday. Because the regular meeting, they couldn't get a quorum because of the, what was it, just the PCAT meetings or something coincided, and many elected officials,
Yeah, I forget.
especially cities, were all going to be at those meetings, or League of Cities or CCAT, one of those, And for two directors, we couldn't, everybody called in who could make it and who could not. And we were two directors short, so we couldn't do the meeting last week, so we did it yesterday. So anyway, it was a pretty interesting meeting. We also did we talked about the evaluation of the CEO of that meeting, into more discussion in closed session, so we don't talk about that. We did talk about the tier two, and it looks like, and maybe Kat maybe can talk a little bit more about this one as well, but there's going to be an extension, 1 year extension. Oh, you smile. All right. So, yeah, then we talked about the open liabilities and the pensions something interesting that happened is, I've talked about this before on several meetings about the restore hedging. There was a big movement, Rose Grant, about tearing down the O'Shaughnessy Dam and restore the valley, And it looks like, obviously there was no alternative and, we're not gonna tear down the dam, obviously, But they just won't go away. Now, they came up with a different angle where at the Hetch Hetchy, at the high mountains, there's cabins where only certain individuals can go into those cabins and they sleep there overnight just to take a look at the water availability of dam and how the system works and all of that. They are making a push to make those cabins and other cabins more accessible to people, to a lot of people. So, I mean, when you look at it, you go like, oh, that's okay, the more people know about it, the better. But we think that the idea is that they're going around the corners, because the more people they know about it, the more people would probably look at the valley the way it could be if it was not for the dam. And so they will have probably another set of supporters to their idea. And I don't know if you can tell them, no, you cannot go up to the high mountains because that's public land, and I'm sure it's available to for some recreation as well. So they're pushing from that angle. We'll see where that's gonna take us. But
They're really nice.
with that,
Those are really nice. Ones by the dam.
yeah, the cabins, yeah, very, yeah. Stay on one of them one time.
You're on a septic system too, as the water supply for it.
There's a lot of dilution.
Yeah, I think I'm drinking some right now.
Good, we talked about, Bosca is gonna be, or is basically 20 years, already, so. We're gonna do something, 20 years, yeah.
What was it called before, boss?
BAWA, actually, BAWA still kind of exists on the financial side. And we have like a 5-minute meeting every year for BAWA. It's still there. But BAWA resulted into Bosca. So, And then we talked a little bit about the financials, because most of the money of Bosco was, the Silicon Bank. And, the aftermath of that. And all the money has been safeguarded, there was not a loss at all. But then we obviously had the usual presentation from the SFPUC, which, Caston gave, so I'm not gonna talk about that because you will. And when you talk about what Renee's gonna talk about, the precipitation on that, look at the drought monitor map, it is unbelievable, beautiful. So take a look at that, because that was the one that we honed in on, the most yesterday. And then we had 2 closed sessions, so most of the meeting was taken by the closed sessions this time, so. Other than that, was basically reviews of and updates of what we've been working on. The newer things were this, head check day thing, but the other stuff was added before and kind of rehashed it again. And, you could talk a little about the tier 2 from the water management side, and then Rena will talk about the water report.
Yeah, so, I smiled because, they didn't tell the water managers kind of a definitive, at least not that I caught, a definitive, like, it's gonna be 1 year longer. It's just that, it's gonna take longer, because,
It's gonna take longer, and they mentioned probably about a year.
yeah.
So when I did that, I thought in my mind, it's gonna be more than a year then.
Yeah.
Not less,
It's gonna be a lot of meetings.
yeah.
That's for sure. So, but I mean, it's ongoing. We, generally, everything is a tentative agreement, right? A placeholder. Everything is always caveat, this is a placeholder. So, but we keep working at it. I think,
Mhm.
it'll take.
26 agencies with 26 different opinions, needs,
We've gotten agreements before, so we'll get there again. It's just a long process.
There, and getting back to water supply, there was an interesting comment by the public, and I mean, Peter Blackmeyer was there, he spoke about 2 or 3 times. And, one of the things that he kind of challenged Bosca is that Bosca is looking at this water supply availability the wrong way. Because now we're talking about alternative water supplies and maybe desal and da. And he goes like, all you have to do is just go to the irrigation district. They have more water than they know what to do with. So there's plenty of water there. So. And it's cheaper, obviously, it's a lot cheaper than the alternative water supplies. But that was a big challenge that he threw on the table, basically.
So the other thing that is kind of going on with Bosca is actually their long-term supply strategy. They're calling it strategy 2045. So it's just being kicked off now. They hired EKI to do the work. And Nona herself, when she was at Bosca, she did the last iteration of it when she was a Bosca employee. It'll be interesting how that process plays out. They've done the first tech memo and draft, and they've asked us to comment, so we submitted our comments on it, and they're identifying like what things you want this plan to accomplish, and there's some lofty goals in there. Be great if they achieve it, but if like the plan can tell us how to achieve affordability with new water supplies is one of those goals. That would be great.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a whole.
Danielle McPherson is the one that usually talks about I know this place and all that. So, anyways, Brenda.
Yeah, so just kind of switch gears. I won't spend a lot of time on this because you guys have a, long closed session probably ahead, but I would just want to give you a picture. Last year, this is what the drought map looked like, right? On what page is this? I'm on page 39. Lots of exceptional drought, throughout the western states in California and some of the southern states, Texas, really bad. And then you go a year later, August 1st, 2023, and California looks really good. The next page. And there's some parts in the central US around the Mississippi or a little west of Mississippi that are still under some extreme drought conditions, but California looks real good. And then I found another one about a little bit after the tropical storm Hillary went through California, right? So the next one on page 41, you see that pretty much all of California is out of any kind of drought condition, you know, according to the criterion. And you'll notice at the very end of this report, I printed the copies of the criteria, just kind of give you a sense. I don't think I've ever done that, but tell you how this information it comes about. So we're looking pretty good. The last couple of WMR meetings, SFPUC really hasn't had any information to show you. We're full. You know, there's no reason to tell you anything because we're nice and fat and happy right now. You know, just let you know we're doing well. So that's the good news. The unknown is what's it gonna look like in this winter. And then another just a drought outlook. I got this just to kind of give you a sense of what these people who are looking at drought thinking what's going to happen, that is a drought going to persist or not, and maybe the reason why California's not showing much of a drought is maybe the El Nino or something like that. You know, we don't know. And then just like to show the board the reservoir levels. I mean, this is again in early August 2023, still very full. Still a lot of water, in the reservoirs. Again, in September, same thing, hadn't really dropped too much compared to last year. On page 45, see last year, we were really low. Some of the reservoirs are scraping bottom. Again, I would tell you about the San Luis Reservoir because sometimes I drive by it. And just quickly, I just wanted to share, if you click onto one of the reservoirs, I just happened to click on the Shasta one. It kind of gives this graphical presentation of all the history of Shasta. So that big blue area there is a historical line graph or chart for all the water information I have for Shasta. So you can kind of see where it typically starts in the water year, about 2.5 million acre feet. It ends maybe about 2.6 million acre feet on average, and if it's a real wet winter, they get maybe 3.5 to 3.7 million acre feet. This year, they hit 4.5 million acre feet, a lot of water, and so they're going to end the water year probably about 2 million acre feet more than when they started this water year. So it just tells you how much water, the state was inundated with. Really, really good. So not much else. I mean, the regional water system, the water use is starting to track down, which is typical this time of the year. And that includes Belmont, includes us. Our water customers are not using as much water as they have in the past. Again, I think to them, they're still seeing the idea of using water efficiently, and we're seeing it in our revenue. We're just not picking up as much revenue because our customers aren't using quite as much water. It didn't seem like it's quite as bad as it was last year. And Al, Lavassier was telling us how bad it was getting. So we're hoping that our customers are using water efficiently, but also use a little bit more water so that we can at least kind of break even on our cost and revenue needs. So just generally tracking, we're kind of tracking to what the SFPUC told us we should be using last year, which to me means that our customers are still conserving water. We're well below our 5-year average. And again, just to me, it just reflects folks get it, trying to save water, got to be proud of our customers. So let's just see what, the winter brings.
You're doing too good.
Yes.
Yeah,
We trained them well. I
we
guess.
trained them well. Yeah.
Save water, but not that much.
But it's good. It's good that they use a little more. Okay, one last thing that the Sierra Club sent a letter to Godfrey. They are requesting the meetings to be also like hybrid, person on, so they can make their comments from the armchair. So we're gonna have to discuss that later on, but they just sent a letter. And a person from Sierra Club spoke. Okay. All right, cool. Next. So my management report.
Yeah, let's go to page 61. It's the system repairs. Just want to point something out. I was sharing with board member Jordan yesterday, Kathy, when Kat and I met. We had a water leak on 723 in Altura Way. And it was related to an incident that happened at the Buckland tank that was created by the pumping station at Exborn that pumps water to the Buckland tanks. And for 2 weekends in a row, we had a situation where the Exborn tanks were told to put water in Buckland, and when it filled up, it told the Exborn pump to turn off, and they didn't turn off. So the water kept going into Buckland, and the water spilled over the tank, fell out of the tank, down the street. And by the time we got to respond, there were already calls to the neighborhood there, and Redwood City Fire Department came out and they said, hey, let's help the homeowner out with the flooding situation. And the second time that happened, the Redwood City Fire Department came out, and I think that they felt that we didn't respond quick enough. They contacted the Belmont PD, say, hey, how do you get a hold of Mid-Peninsula Waters? Because this thing's flooding again a week later and nobody's doing anything about it. Well, we had, but by the time we got out there, and against the advice of the Belmont PD, the fire department, one of their personnel closed down a valve filling the Buckland tank. Hand cranked down the valve, right? And when they did that, they created an overpressure situation in the system, and it created that leak at 1528 Altura Way. So Michael and I and Chris met with the fire chief and the deputy fire chief to let them know what happened and ask them why they did it, and they're saying, oh, it happened. We're just trying to help the homeowner, with their flooding situation there.
Was the house actually flooding or was?
No, it was water was going down, and their roads are very steep.
Yeah.
So the water's going down. It just happened to turn into somebody's garage, and somebody had 2 or 3 inches of water in there. They filed a claim, and we're dealing with it with our insurance company. And even the guys the week before it first happened the first time, Michael and Chris were out there and looking at the pump control valve, and they found something that wasn't quite right. So they thought they'd taken care of it. But it happened literally again a week later, and this time again, the fire department beat us out there before we could get out there. And like I said, somebody just thought they were doing the right thing from the fire department. They closed down the valve and it caused the pipe to burst. And so we're working on a bill, and we're gonna submit a claim to Redwood City.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, we don't know how much water we lost, but we lost a lot of water, and then we spent a lot of time. We actually brought in our on-call contractor to help us too. So it cost us quite a bit of money to repair it. And it was something if when they called the police department, they could have gotten the number and talked to the on-call operator, and he would say, hey, I'm 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away or whatever, just let it go. That's why we have insurance. And when I get there, we'll take care of it. But they decided to go out there and do something on their own. And so
Redwood City?
Redwood City Fire Department.
Redwood City, right, yeah, Ray Iverson.
Yeah, right. Yeah, nice guy. Ray's a nice guy, and his Greg DeCuna is a deputy chief. Yeah, we met with them, and it is, hey, this is we just responded to the call, and we thought we were doing something to help out, and well, you didn't. So we're trying to eventually
So
hopefully.
what was their response? I'm curious.
Well, it wasn't Ray or Greg, it was somebody else who responded, right?
Right.
And their response was they were just doing their job, basically. But they cut the gate, right? They didn't have a key to get in there, so they cut the gate and they went in there, and the firefighter just saw, here's a valve. Let me turn this off and that'll stop the water from overflowing in the tank. Sure enough, it did, but it had ramifications. We talked to them about maybe getting together with their staff and also use this as a training incident, maybe to explain a little bit more about how the water systems work, because they're different around here with all the hills and all the different pressure zones. And it just there's other things that happen when you do things, and
Does this mean we could go ride their trucks and like,
I think you can go fight fire.
I think we should go fight some fires.
I think you can go fight fire.
Some kittens from the,
Yeah.
It's not, normally they don't touch anybody else.
Yeah, it was interesting because the week before that happened, they called up Cal Water, because Cal Water has a tank site just adjacent to ours. And they asked the guy from the operator from Cal Water, said, hey, well, why don't you go do something over there on the Mid-Peninsula? Well, I'm not touching that. That's not our system. We don't do that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's the same
But
thing.
what's surprising is you mentioned Redwood City, and we were in Belmont, so why?
It's kind of like here, it's Belmont, San Mateo, and Foster City. So over there, it's Redwood City and San Carlos.
But that tank is in San Carlos.
That tank is in San Carlos.
Ah.
Sorry,
okay.
it's in
Yeah.
San Carlos.
That's different,
Yeah.
okay, all right, so. okay.
Yeah, initially I thought it was the Belmont Fire Department. I called up Kent Thrasher. And
Kent
he goes,
Thrasher.
it's not us. It's Redwood City. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, okay. All right, so, just kind of the bill.
Send them a bill and we'll see what happens. I'm sure they're gonna wanna talk about it,
Yeah.
our City manager wanna talk about it.
Submit a claim.
Yeah, submit a claim. Yeah, we're gonna submit a claim.
Okay, put on their flags. Yeah, just to fight it.
That's all I want to share from my report, unless one of the board members saw something that would caught your attention.
All right, anything for, right now on his report? Anybody? Good? Good?
Yeah.
All right, very good. We're going to, Cynthia, Pat, the report?
Yeah, I'll touch on a couple things. So you all saw the drafted letter to our legislators. We were able to send those, earlier this month, when we got signatures, and within, the same week of sending them out, we got a call from Diane Pathan's office to schedule a tour, so I think Brenna, you and Lewis are working together to schedule that tour date for some of her office to come out, so they're interested in learning more and potentially helping us out, so that's some good news, we'll see where that goes.
Good.
Just to make sure it's happening.
Yeah.
Right, and I just
Yeah,
don't
no.
mispronouncing it to her, or to her office,
For your office, yeah.
Yes, it's a very political family.
very political.
Louis Pappan was her father, and then there's Diane Pappan and Gina Pappan, all in politics, local politics. Yeah, okay, no, well, Diane is in the state now, and Deanna is still no break, yeah, all right, go ahead.
And so you all have been hearing about making conservation a way of life for 5 years now. And 5 years in the making, we finally have a draft regulation that's out there that actually hopefully, answers many of the questions we've had, probably creates more questions. So that draft regulation is out there, we're reviewing it, we're running our own numbers to see what it looks like. Certainly Aqua and Vasca has, encouraged agencies to comment on anything that they feel they need to comment on. There's one item I think we'll comment on, which is just regarding the calendar year versus fiscal year for the water loss audit. We always do it on fiscal year basis, but it's gonna require us to do it on calendar year, little things like that. So we'll have at least, a small comment on it, but that's coming closer. It's exciting to me because we can actually calculate something instead of just waving our hands around saying, probably okay, I guess. So that's happening. And then thank you for everyone who came to the barbecue. That was a lot of fun. I think it was very successful. And we'll make it a regular event every year.
So this regulation on the California way of life came out from where, to all the districts and?
Yeah, so the, AB 1668, SB 606 passed in 2018, and it kind of started the cascade of, had this framework of okay, it's moving past to the urban water management plan, save 20% by 2020, right? We're past 2020. We don't have those targets anymore for conservation to meet. So here's a framework to encourage / require conservation into the future, past the 20 by 2020 framework. And basically it directed DWR to develop a bunch of standards and, performance standards and, kind of volumetric standards that add up to annual water use objectives. And it's, rather complicated when you kind of start looking at how they want to slice and dice. They had a very ambitious goal of having the state use aerial imagery to measure the amount of landscape area you have in your district. And then for what's currently irrigated, what's irrigable, and what's, not going to be irrigated. And then, have that number applied metric. That took years of, actually consultants changed on that, a lot of, review and QC and people unhappy with the numbers, challenges of trying to measure lawn and landscape area, right? In like the northern California where there's so much tree canopy, and do it in San Bernardino County and have those be equitable. And they kind of, in my opinion, they bit off a little bit more they can chew with that aspect. And there's just, 5 different components. And so it's a process when we get our numbers run and, when the regulations are finalized, and we know what's changing and not changing, we'll kind of do that map and show it to you. But
All right.
it's been this kind of looming specter. You're gonna have to save more water. Probably, maybe you're good. I don't know. But we have no way to test it, so.
That was always the concern, was they're going to set, potentially DWR will be able to set allocation our district
Yeah,
during drought periods. And it's not gonna be related to what our supply is, it's going to be related to this budget formula that they're calculating based on your land use off of the GIS. So it was like, yeah, okay, how can you tell what there's irrigation in various areas, and those types of things? All they can see is a lawn. My new house has nice green lawn with astroturf. How do they recognize that? I don't know.
Cool. All right, anything else on that? Any questions for that? None. Administrative services, any?
Just a quick reminder for people whose certifications are about to be up. You're on the list. Rena, Brian, Lewis, and Kirk. So the links.
Not this guy?
Oh, no.
No,
No, 2025, buddy.
He just renewed not too long ago. Yeah, that's maybe 2025. But the link is at the bottom here. If you need me to send it to you, I'm happy to do so. Just let me know. But otherwise, it's been a really busy 2 months and I don't see it slowing down. But other than that, unless you have questions.
Yeah, well, thank you. The name stuff here.
Do we have a finance committee meeting coming up at all, or is it
no,
only as necessary?
yeah,
I haven't seen the list for a while, so.
Yeah,
yeah, we don't have anything planned,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, there's nothing to go over at this point.
Yeah.
But we have a new treasurer. Okay, when Denise is there, it will be good.
We'll reach out,
and with all the different financing kind of,
Yeah.
you know, things
Might
to
not be a
explore.
bad idea.
We'll start meeting.
Very good. Money, that's it
That's it.
from you? That was easy.
All the time he's putting on the audit.
Oh, yeah.
We're mid-audit, so.
Well, we are working on getting all the paperwork together, you know, all the documents that they want to audit, so that's taking a lot of time.
Who, the new.
CG
Everybody,
Brown, yeah.
we're all doing it. I'm helping, well, I'm putting it in Dropbox, I'm telling them what they need, reviewing it, putting it in, making sure, checking, saying, no, that's not right, yes, that's right. Kelly's probably produced most of the documents, and yes, she's new. And Misty has helped with some of the more complicated stuff that's harder to find, that she's more familiar with. And we're getting Ron involved as well. And he's learning some of this stuff, and so I'm a proponent of learning, teaching as much as you can.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like he has a lot. He's contributing a lot, but he can also learn a lot. So that's, my goal is to teach them all to be as independent as possible in the next 12 months.
All right. Cool.
So they don't like it when they see me coming to their doors, they're like,
Here she goes again. All right, good. Thank you, Monique. All right. Move on. To district engineer.
Yeah, before I start on this, I was, following that Restore Hatchechi back in the day, and just one thing to point out is kind of buried in that.
Rosecrans was involved then, okay, he still is now.
And, one thing, it's kind of buried in that nice, bound document that they put out, but they were never gonna remove that dam. They were only gonna punch a hole in it at the bottom of it. And, so the valley was gonna get restored, but if you turn around and wanted to see the sunset, the dam was gonna still be there. So just something that, we always talk about removing the dam, but it was actually gonna always stay because it was too much environmental impact to remove it, so. But, it was an interesting little tidbit, but, we'll talk about Harbor Boulevard in a second. The DLNO project is out at the state for review. We heard, the only thing I want to report on that is we heard back today that And the only thing we heard back was, sorry, we're backed up. It's gonna take a little bit more time for them to review our project. That pushes the project back, a little bit longer. Once we get comments back, I'll come back with an updated schedule, but right now it's at the state. The streets are really narrow, so we're asking for a bunch of variances to the separation requirement between water and sewer. Nothing worse than what's out there now. And we're actually making improvements, but not enough to get the actual separation required. Old County Road is our next massive project that is going to be starting probably at the beginning of November. The contractor wants to start towards the end of October, but I'm not sure if that's realistic or not. Our construction management team is an outside consultant that we hired. The board approved their contract. They're doing an amazing job coordinating everything. And once we get the schedule set and fine-tuned and organized, we're gonna start the outreach. That's really the next big pressing thing on this project is the outreach, because of all the impact that we're gonna be having on all the businesses. So there's phasing involved with this project because we're taking pipe out that's in the existing alignment. So we're actually gonna physically remove pipe, put pipe back. So tie-ins and shutdowns and all those things were worked out in design. But now we're somewhat educating the contractor on that. And so it's taking a little bit of time to get all that squared away. We have a pre-construction meeting scheduled for October 11th. And like I said, the big thing is the outreach. We have a dedicated, the contractor is setting up a dedicated phone line for the project and website. We're gonna be updating our website to include the project updates. And then we found through the El Camino project, the best thing to do with outreach was just go knock on doors, one-on-one. So the construction manager, our operations manager, Michael, are just gonna go and have a project information sheet and literally knock on the door of businesses and just say, hey, we're here, you know, who do we need to talk to? And if they're not there, we'll note it, come back, you know, kind of just that personal touch is we had public hearing or public meetings set up for El Camino, like I think 3 of them or 2 or 3 of them, and literally no one showed up, right? I mean, it was great that we did it because we could say we did it, but where we got the most impact was just that knocking on the door, and because the businesses here, a lot of them are owner operator type businesses, so we're going to.
That's good, yeah. It's time consuming, but it's probably most effective.
And a lot of the work south of Harbor is probably gonna be during the night, right?
So we're working through, that's why the schedule is really important to
Yeah.
hone with the contractor, because we want to know what they're doing, when they're doing it, then when we transmit that, well, then we'll go out and do the outreach. Because when we knock on that door, we want to say, hey, Mr. Business Owner, you know, we're gonna be in front of your business, but it's at night, you know, or whatever it's going to, so we gotta get that component with the contractor squared away before we meet with them. Gosh, there was one other thing on this, but no, submittals, lots of submittals coming through this time for the project. Those are all kind of working through and they're going out. If we can, any questions on those two before we move on to Harbor? Nope. Okay, if you can go to the next page, Ren, I'd appreciate it. So 2 progress payments for Harbor Boulevard. So the majority of the project is done. There's 2 here because one was for August, we didn't have a board meeting, and one was for September. And if you recall, we talked a lot about the rock situation and they ran into rock and those kind of things. So change order number 1 was negotiated for the rocks, that was paid out of this progress payment. And there's pictures there and so forth. Then there's another change order request from the contractor for going deeper in certain areas because of some conflicts. And so that is going to, we're still in negotiations with them, our standard plans and specifications and how they bid the job is that it's plus 2 feet of what's shown on the plans is included in the project linear footage of price. So we're working through that. If you could pause right there, I wanted to just point something out for the board. We had a bout of COVID go through our office, and the person that does our QA/QC was out for 2 weeks, and this shows the result of that, which is a bit embarrassing. But I wanted to just point out that the total value of work shown there the addition is incorrect. What we paid the contractor is correct, but we didn't add two numbers together correctly, so I apologize for that, but it got corrected on the next progress payment, so. And I think the only thing else I want to say on Harbor is the pending change orders, which is on page, let me pull that up on my side so you can pull it up on your side. Rena is on page, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. It is PDF page 78, 77. There's a rock situation, those two items, there's a rock, I'm sorry, the depth situation that I mentioned. There's also a situation where our contractor, cut through unmarked, signal, lines that the county owns and operates at the corner of Harbor and OCR.
Street, you know?
Street, light signal, right, and so we've been in talks with them over the past, I want to say 2 months, a month and a half, trying to resolve that, and, they're trying to put it on us, we're saying that we called you, we went through all the notifications, you didn't mark it, you know, so we're working through it, so, but it's been interesting, we don't work with the county very often, and it's been challenging, probably. Let's leave it at that. But those are the two pending items. Most of the construction is done now. There's some services that are being run, but all the big ticket items, the main is in service. It passed all the pressure tests and the back T. The main is in service, and we're doing the connections now. Service connections. Any questions on that one?
Any questions for Juben?
I have one more I just wanted to point out.
Before we go there, Juben, on the situation of the rocks, how did they charge? Because they calculate the extra time?
So the way we negotiated that out was their production, I think on one of the change orders kind of goes through the methodology, but essentially we looked at how much time, how much production they were going to get if there was no rock. And then we saw how much production they got because of rock. And we looked at the difference and we negotiated that difference essentially. So if there was no rock, that's how they bid it, right? That's how much production they were going to get. It's not as easy as what I described because they're doing ancillary work, right? They're putting in T's and fire hydrants, and on certain days they're doing that and not doing that. So but the methodology is that you look at days that when they hit rock versus on non-rock, yeah.
But the progress of work that they did, they are actually doing that, they are moving that, that pace, when there is no rocks.
We don't know how they bid it per se, but we can tell on the days that they don't have rock, how much production they were getting, right? So let's say they're getting in 6 pieces of pipe in, on days that they don't have rock. And we use that as the baseline. Let's say they're doing 6, 7, 6, 7, so we average it out.
So if they put 6 without rocks, the change order, they cannot say, you know what, if it wasn't for that rock, I would have put 10 pieces.
Right,
in.
exactly.
Because that, that.
Right. We don't ask them what they were going to do, we see what they have
What
done
they done.
under,
Exactly. Yeah.
So. And then speaking of rock, is that the last thing I wanted to point out was we have developed an internal, because I know this question has come up as far as can we put this into the plans as far as rocks and how do we deal with hard ground and other things. So we actually have a design directive that we use, that's the next after all the harbor stuff. So it's on page, let's see, sorry, page 85 of the PDF, and that just describes our methodology. It's an internal document for the district engineering staff on how we deal with rock or other things and how we negotiate with the contractor and what our thought process is. And it's basically what I just described. That's the thought. But we also went through, well, why don't you just include rock? Just make a statement and include it in the bid price and say, I don't care what you run into, it's included in the bid price. But if you do that, then your bid price really increases, right? Because what if there is no rock, which is almost all the projects except for the last 2, there's never been any rock, right? So so in those cases, then we're paying for something that is, is not in the ground. So the last page of this is what I wanted to point out was after hardware, I said, you know what? Maybe I'm looking at this wrong. I actually called and spoke to a very reputable geotechnical engineer. That's that paragraph right there. In Romeg, they're in San Carlos. And I said, are we looking at this right? Is our methodology correct? And he said, I would have never guessed, and that's in that paragraph, I would have never guessed there would have been rock on harbor. Like, even though on a map, there's a geological map of all of San Mateo County, that map shows that there's rock there. But he said, that's typically buried under sediment, so you're only going 4 or 5 feet to put your pipe in.
You'll never have it.
Even if I knew that, I would have told you, your chances of running through rock is not slim to none. So I felt a little bit better, but I'm like, well, I still run through rock. I mean, that kind of sucks, but at least our methodology is somewhat correct. So we have some things that we're gonna do during design, like we're gonna, if we walk it and see rock outcroppings on the side of the road, those are things that we're gonna visually look at when we do some potholing, we're gonna look at that, but for the most part, we're gonna continue doing what we have been doing. So, and just chalk these two up to, unfortunate circumstances. But as I've always said, we have that 10% contingency for these items. Underground construction, you start digging, you don't know what you're gonna run into. We've been really fortunate, but even with that, I hope to bring this in under, under that 10%. So we're at 3% right now.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Very good. Any more comments or questions, Juven? All right. Thank you, Juven. And we'll move on to the financial reports. Who's gonna do this?
Yeah, I'm right here. I'm participating via Zoom. So good evening. So in the just kind of overall highlights, the surplus from operations is about $500,000. So it's not as much as it was last year at the same time, but our revenues have increased as compared to last year. The other thing that has increased that's offset that is actually the cost of water. So that's gone up by about $140,000 as compared to this time last year. The total revenue so interest revenue is kind of a bigger topic right now because the interest rates have been rising. So we've actually got quite a bit of interest revenue coming in from the various, like from our Zions account as well as from our LAPE account. The salaries and wages, payroll taxes, we're actually trending a little bit lower than an even stream. And if we were to have salaries and wages even keeled throughout the entire year, we're actually trending a little bit lower than that. So we've got a little bit of savings there. But overall, everything is trending pretty close to what we expected or what was expected when the budget was put together. Let's see here. We do have approximately $7.8 million left in various budget amounts for the COP funding or for the capital improvement program. And then we do have some new capital outlay for the payroll module in Springbrook, some trucks. So we do have some new projects that are going to be funded out of that, out of those COPS funds, as well as the capital reserves. And just overall things, we're basically just 2 months in, so it's kind of hard to see where we're going to go for the next 10 months. And we'll just report again next month. So nothing significant really that's popped out, thankfully.
Very good. Nothing significant, it's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Ramsey? Ramsey, right?
Yeah.
Any questions? You good?
I have a quick question on the CIP expenditures. It says we have a little over 7 million still. I think that's money's earmarked, right? I thought we were spending.
Yes. Those are pre-approved budgets. That's the amount of the budget that has not been spent. So at the beginning of the year, it was $8.5 million or $8,476,000. So far, the district has spent about 500. And so the remaining piece that still is budgeted for, earmarked for, is not gonna be, it's not gonna be used for anything else, is about 7.9.
Got it, thank you.
And that's, most of it is Old County Road.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was reading it correctly.
Yep.
Thank you.
Of course.
Excellent, very good. Any more questions? Let's get the info. Very good. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, move on to the annual reimbursement report for fiscal year 21-22.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah, you are money, so.
These are expenses that have already been, seen in the expenditure reports for that year. It's just a requirement. Government code requires that we provide this. So we provided it, we posted it, and, we're bringing it to the board to see. I don't think you really have to take any action on it.
Yeah, anything over $100 that we reimburse an employee, we've got to post it. Share with the public that we've reimbursed an employee.
People. Ryan Bowman,
He's an operator.
the others,
There's probably a few more, entries on here than we otherwise expect. Just the fact that we had such a hard time getting credit cards, in the beginning. I know I ended up expensing a bunch of things that I would have otherwise paid directly with credit card and do now, so.
so that it's the normal thing, they present receipts and then you reimburse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we provide this report every year, but yes. We have been able to, use our new credit cards in some good ways, like I was able to use it with Director Jordan when she went to a conference, and I think that was pretty successful. There were a couple of little hiccups, but it was pretty successful. So we'll be trying to use them, as other staff, like when, Jonathan went to San Diego. If he had come to me, I would have helped him pushed out, like a virtual credit card to him. So he could have, instead of using his own credit card, he could have used the district credit card. But I didn't realize that he was using his own credit card, so. But we talked about that, so that'll change next time he goes.
That's an SOP, Maureen.
You know what?
For our rap session.
I'm gonna be SOP queen. Just kidding.
All right, Your Highness. What else?
Don't give her a big head, Louis.
So, but one thing, that, talking about the credit cards, we did meet our Wells Fargo rep at our recent, attendance at the conference, which has been a really good result because I went over there and talked to them about our challenges with the people that were not supporting them. And so, the lady was really nice. She immediately got on her computer and started sending out whatever messages to whomever, which resulted in a phone call. We've had at least one phone call. We've made some changes to some of the things in our system that's really important for the district, so that we're not on the hook if there's a check, for example. This particular example is, if we write a check, they have something called positive pay, and that the system looks at what you've written a check to, and did that check come in, and if it's written to the right person and with the same amount. But if you don't approve it, the way it was set up, it was set up to a default, I think, or maybe it wasn't a default, I can't remember. But anyway, it's been changed to where it'll be rejected if it doesn't match, rather than accepted, and then if it's accepted and it's fraud, we're on the hook for it. So that's been one really good result of talking with these people. And we've also talked about coming back to the board with we don't make a lot of interest on our checking account. We get, I think, 1.65%. And so they are proposing a different process for us to get what they call a sweep account. So the money gets swept back and forth between a savings account that we will bear somewhere around 5% anyway.
Correct, yeah.
And then they'll sweep in each evening, and they'll pay whatever payables we have, and then sweep back the balance so that we continue to accrue interest on that. So that was also really good. So those are
So
things
this
that.
will be the credit card billing will recognize to the checking, but if there's not money in the checking, they go to the savings.
This is actually our main checking account
Oh, the main.
with
checking
Wells
account.
Fargo.
Wells Fargo.
Ah,
So Wells Fargo is who we used to have our credit cards with, which I think we still have one credit card. We just haven't gotten it canceled. But we tried to get an increase. We tried to get more credit cards, one for Kat, one for myself. It was a circus. And we finally just went with Umpqua. If you recall, we brought
Yes,
Umpqua to
yes.
you and we went with Umpqua, which has also been successful. But at the conference, I went to the Wells Fargo booth and then Kat and I went back. And because, you know, she's the person they need to talk to, not really me. So anyways, we went back and as a team, I feel like, we talked to the person. She got us in contact with the right person who then we actually had an issue with our checking account and I called the person who was in New York or Colorado or somewhere, but he's our rep. He gave me the phone number of who I needed to call. It's so much better. So it was a really good result. So I just wanted to share that.
good, good. All right. Any questions on this, these expenses? Good. All right, thank you, Your Highness. Okay. And the third item is just review alternative expenditure report format. Who's talk about that?
I can do that.
Okay,
Yeah, so if you recall, last meeting, we presented an alternative format,
mhm,
that took a little kind of staff work to manipulate. The direction you gave was, okay, let's see if we can get an automatic report out of Springbrook to minimize, you know, any staff time and obviously potential errors that could happen as a result of random manipulation. So this is an alternative format that came out of Springbrook that James, developed.
so the
For
CPA
us.
helped us with that, right? Okay. good.
Yeah.
They have somebody who's an expert on Springbrook, I understand.
Yeah, and I think now James is also an expert.
Yeah, we have somebody on our team that basically has got a personal relationship with somebody over at Springbrook that can help generate some of these reports, so.
Good.
That's,
All right.
He's also putting like coding in place so that as we move forward, that was something that I thought was kind of neat, from our weekly meetings, is he's putting things in place that'll be long-term, that he won't have to work on every single time, other than I would imagine, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, James, but, other than like some, you know, dates or whatever the minor changes are. So I thought that's really awesome.
it'll take 2 to 3 minutes to generate the report. One, you gotta generate it, pull it down, and then you just add a formula that'll put the information that you need in there, so should be fairly straightforward.
So the coding would be for repeat expenses?
Yeah, so like he builds in the software, he builds a report. And then all he has to do is like put the right dates in for this report, for example. And he'll put the dates in and then,
The limit from this to this.
right. And I mean, I don't know, he's doing it in multiple places. So it's not just here, he's also doing it for other, I mean, you can talk, cause I'm a really good financial explainer.
So yeah, these reports, so some of these reports just come out canned, and then there's just a little bit of tweaking from these reports. So I can pull down a number of reports, and I don't think it'll take too much effort to get these done. It's not gonna take more than 5 minutes of staff time when it comes down to getting these reports pulled for you, so. And then we can look at examples from other districts to see which ones you really, really like and that sing to you or speak to you. So.
Question, do you like this report? Do you want to go with this? Do you want to look at other?
This one is fine, the only thing that it seemed to be missing was there was no actual total to what all of the expenditures were for the month. Although I think this is a 2-month report that we actually generate. Hard to tell.
Did you catch that, James? That there are no totals or subtotals for the different amounts?
So yeah, that was gonna be my next question is, when you want the subtotals, do you want that by account line item, or do you want that by? So this report here is sorted by account number. And so do you want that by account number and then by vendor, or do you want just by account number? What kind of grouping schema would you prefer?
Account number doesn't do anything for me.
Well, I'm not sure it needs to get down to the detail of all of the account numbers, but it might be worthwhile having.
Or account name, what, account number, account name,
Yeah, that at least you can get some idea of what we're spending in payroll costs versus accounts payable and so on.
Well,
Just, but those are the numbers that are gonna carry through to the end of month report anyway. But those tend to be fairly limited.
Yeah.
I guess it would be useful to see what other places are doing and see whether subtotals by a grouping of account numbers make sense or not. It's
yeah,
almost
the expenditure report I typically see is one by actually vendor. Just to see who you're paying the monies to, because you've got your budget to actual report that reflects the amounts that are being paid on a monthly basis to your to the account line item. Now with the budget to actual report, of course, you won't have the detail by account line item. So there's pros and cons for each one, right? But typically what I've seen is by vendor. Most people are wondering who the money is going to, not necessarily who the money is going to on what.
Yeah, but that's something that we can associate with more than just an account number, which is very difficult to remember which account number.
Yeah, so we added the account name in here just for that clarity, just to make sure that you knew.
I don't know what you guys feel about just go to group it by vendor.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at our regular report, it had a $40,000 expense for San Mateo County Environmental Health. I was like, what the hell is that about? And it's in here, it's in this. So, all right, okay, now I understand.
So how complicated would that be? Or that should be pretty easy to do?
Okay. Okay, yeah. So it sounds like maybe by vendor and then account name. Like, because I see in that beginning report, there's no account number or account name associated with that. So maybe that's what we're looking for, is the vendor, then account name, not account name, then vendor. The grouping changes. So the way the report is sort of changes because of that. So
Yeah, it's true.
For you, you have other things, account number means something to you a lot more.
well, it's connected to the budget, so when you look at the account number, it's what it's charged to against the budget, and I think that's what we thought you wanted the connection to be. It's like, how much is coming out of this line item on the budget? But
Well, I mean, it would be if we actually were getting down to that level of detail in the monthly financial statement. But what we really ought to be looking at here is who's getting the money, what do we think it was for, what are the notes? So it sounds like vendor may be the best.
Yeah.
Group it by vendor, and I don't even know whether or not we actually need subtotals for each individual vendor if we're showing all the individual amounts.
well, we can always come back with, like, next board meeting, we can come back with it sorted by vendor name. And then make sure that the description is there, because it sounds like the description's helpful.
Yeah.
And we can do subtotals, then you can decide if you don't want them or you do want
Right.
them. See how it looks?
Yeah, okay,
okay.
all right. Good. You know when you forget it. Anything else on this topic? It looks like we have a plan, all right? Good. Any questions from?
So you guys, so it's good for us to replace the current one with the proposed one for next time, and we'll go with that? Okay, and then
Is that a lot of work? Or,
No,
you know,
no,
Okay,
it's only a few minutes,
all right, okay, good. I like that.
right, James?
yeah, it took me 4.5 minutes to get this report done. So
I did. Perfect.
Very good, I like that.
Can you come help me in my office?
Very good, thank you. All right, thank you, and thank you, Monique. And we'll move on to director's report. And report, Director Schmidt, anything?
Yeah, I just want to report out that I attended Sustainable Silicon Valley's Waterpalooza in mid-September. And 2 days, one online and one in person. It was worthwhile. I recommend folks doing that.
One of my peers was there for that.
What's that?
Carla did.
Yeah, from Palo Alto. I walked up and told her I knew you. So a couple interesting things I got from that. There is a new way to do, what seems to me a new way to do toilet leak detection in multifamily housing. They put a leak detector on each toilet because they're not sub-metered, so you can't tell where the heck it is unless you have the SIM. And I think it was $100 a unit to do that.
And that's attached to the toilet at all times.
Yeah, and then it sends it has on the radio thing, and it tells the supervisor, the superintendent of the apartment that, yeah, the leak, here it is. And then you come.
You
Take care of it.
don't have to put the dye in.
No, no,
So it goes on each toilet or it just goes on the subsurface?
it goes on each toilet.
Toilet, yeah, you have to, but then.
But some of them don't have subservices. The older ones don't have.
It's $100 per toilet.
Yeah, and apparently they think that'll pay off.
Yeah,
As opposed to having a toilet just run because the tenants aren't paying for it, so it's not the top of their priority to deal with. If the toilet flap is sealing or something.
what, do you know the vendor's name?
I can tell you who told us about this. It was Cora Snyder at Pacific Institute. And this is all online too. I can try and find.
At Pacific Institute?
Yeah,
So it runs off batteries?
good question. I guess so. So I guess eventually it would die.
Well, $100.
Or maybe it's plugged in.
I don't think so. Not what they showed.
Not everybody has a plug right by
Not everybody has a phone.
Yeah, people were worried about their electric sending signals, like, right, there was a whole bunch
The
of
smart-
the smart
smart
metering and stuff. Now you're, now
Yeah.
you're gonna.
Monster
monster
truck toilet?
Yeah.
But
Dollar
you can make it-
device to your
you
house.
can make it happen when they build. They build new facilities,
Yeah, people just get
or find somebody who wants to be your,
paid. She didn't mention that as being a problem with people freaking out. And everyone has their phone next to
Right.
their head.
That's them doing it themselves, you know, what we do it when they're recording.
Yes.
Right.
So other things, AMI systems. I kind of thought we were way out ahead of other folks. We are ahead, but it did say that 8 out of the 26 FOSCA agencies are 100% AMI.
Yeah.
All
I didn't
of
think it
them
was
in the
that.
middle of implementation right now.
So we're not quite as far ahead as I
But
thought.
all fairness, we have water, gas and electric meters.
And they're doing a really interesting thing at
I mean, actually, we were ahead, it's just people like catching up, that's all.
we are 100% AMI.
Since 2019, right?
yeah, we're 100%. We did it in my time here. We got to 100%, so it's not that long.
Right.
Just saying that we're not quite as way ahead as I thought we were.
We're not as advanced as we thought we were.
Out at Silicon Valley Clean Water, the wastewater treatment plant, whose name I probably screwed up.
No, that's it, that was it.
Okay,
You
how
got
about that? They're doing an interesting anaerobic treatment of wastewater as opposed to aerobic treatment. And it results in a lot fewer emissions, a lot fewer solids, and a much reduced
I thought
footprint.
you said a lot fewer salads, and I'm like. I'm like, man, I missed that, no, college, that's right, never mind.
The brown
I'm
salad.
tired.
It's the dressing.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Well, the one important thing they said about it is it reduces the footprint. They don't need those huge things. that
Floors,
they
yeah,
have. And that's great if you want to do, say, put a potable reuse system on that plan. So I thought that was really interesting too. And then finally, Cora, the woman here,
Oh,
Carla, said that Palo Alto is considering use of shallow aquifers for park irrigation, which I thought was really interesting. So anyway, it's definitely worthwhile. It's all online too. I could send it out to Monique, she'll forward it on. Good. So I'm sure we'll do it again next year. Sorry, Tickle.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I think we could at least see the info.
Yeah, I think I heard about that technology kind of early on and they were kind of pushing it for hotels. But the vendor didn't want to give me cost numbers, it just didn't, you know, it was a little too early. It sounds like it's more
The other one that keeps cropping up is, power generation at pressure reducing stations. And it's never, it hasn't cost, the cost hasn't gone down to the point where it makes sense on anything smaller than like 24 right? Which we don't have. Well, maybe we have one. I don't know what size the one
It
is.
wasn't, it was the technology too, like for smaller pipe.
Yeah, smaller pipe.
You know, so
And then you
they,
gotta find a power drop and all that kind of thing. In Palo Alto, we pump up into the hills a lot, and then we have to draw it down to maintain water quality. We've got like 10 million gallons of storage, and 6 of it is up in the hills, and I've got another van up in the hills. We waste a lot of power keeping our tanks full.
it actually, we have a couple of really good spots that I have picked out as soon as the technology.
I keep hearing about it, and I keep getting emails forwarded to me, and it's like, last time I checked, it wasn't there yet.
Every 12 months, I have a tickler to do it because, and it's down to 18 inches, I think. But not quite, you know,
Yeah.
where we're on it. But it's a great, because we get ours all the way up at Hallmark and we have a bunch of drops down to here, right? So we have some really cool places to put it in. But anyway, I'm sorry. That's
All right, we good, thank you. Matt, anything?
No,
No, you're good?
good.
I just wanted to thank Kat for organizing the barbecue and all the people who came out. It was a really fun afternoon and really enjoyed getting to know people that, I mean, we don't get to see everybody every day, so it was a nice time to just spend some time outside of the office and meet people's families. So thanks so much for organizing it and also for including us. And thank you to everybody who came. Did you send the picture to Juben?
Yeah, the picture of, there was a very ambitious squirrel.
Oh, yeah, I got that, yeah.
Who,
That was cool.
Stole
stole
an egg roll.
a whole egg roll. It
It looked like a hot dog. That's what I
did.
guess when I saw it, I'm like, "Look, a hot dog with a bone."
He just would not let go of that one,
Yeah.
no matter what. Director Weaver, anything?
Let's see, we had HIA
HIA, yeah.
and, it was mostly the same stuff that we've been
It's
doing.
the Craig Carlos.
Yeah.
The area, the.
Right, so they were talking about the San Carlos plant,
Yeah.
as opposed to the previous one, which was Belmont plant.
And so some of the members of the HIA are attending the meeting that they're having at City Hall in St. Carlos about that, yeah.
Right. Other than that, the picnic was nice, it was a good event. I'm sorry, I had to leave early. And then I did do, local community meeting for the, night out event in August. Over in
National Night Out.
the National Night Out.
Yeah.
In the central area,
Yeah, that's right there.
yes.
Cool, good, good. Good job on that thing, again, it was fun, and the most fun was actually talking to the guys on a different level than what they're doing every day here, so.
Yeah,
That was great, and getting to know the spouses and the kids and all that.
I'm glad everyone enjoyed it, but don't give me all the credit. A lot of other people helped organize and set up and break down and all
It's
that
always,
stuff.
it's always the same, so.
Yes.
To the whole team,
Kudos to all.
for everyone who organized it. I don't want to leave people out. And we do need to get Brandon some music, because there was a lot of music he didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, I started playing songs like really everybody knows this song.
He's like, nope. Next, nope.
He's into hip hop, or is that it?
No, we didn't know any of our,
Uh,
who was it? You brought up Joe Crocker?
Joe Cocker.
Oh, no, Joe Cocker, what's wrong with him?
He's obviously too young.
He's too young.
And you had somebody else too. I can't remember who the other person was, but it was somebody that we all know. And we're like, what do you mean you don't know this person? This is not allowed.
Way
It
too
was
young.
funny. It was funny. He kept saying, I wasn't born yet. I'm like, well, some of these songs, I wasn't born yet, but everybody still knows them.
He did take it, you know, he took it well.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
Good. All right, next, communications, anything?
Yeah, we got something. We have the Aqua election results. Aren't you real excited? So Kathy Green was elected president, as actually the preferred candidate. So Kathy Green and Ernesto Avila, vice president. And then in Region 5, John Varela was elected chair. The group here said, hey, let's put in John Weed's name. So we didn't get him, but Sarah Palmer was vice chair, and that was one the board said, let's choose her. And then the other members are Mary Bannister. I'm trying to look at my own handwriting. John Mueller, John Weed, and Floyd Wicks. I'm not sure if I got that right. I think it's Wicks. The board had said, hey, let's put in Ernesto Avila's name. Obviously, he got elected as vice chair or vice president. We had Mary Bannister, John Mueller, Sarah Palmer, and John Weed. So that kind of matched up.
Weed is out completely?
Weed is out. Yeah, Weed is out completely. No, wait a minute. No, he's one of the members. He's one of the members. Just a member. Not out, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that guy's gonna not be.
Isn't he like in his 80s or something? He's been around a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been there since I've been here.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, God, he's really old.
Yeah.
He's knowledgeable though,
Oh, yes.
very
yeah.
knowledgeable. I mean, he's
He's got an impressive resume. So anyway, sure.
He's pushing for desal, by the way, big time.
Oh,
Every meeting he mentioned, you know, we should seriously consider desal, you know. That's good, he is. Anyway. I think we have other sources, but anyway, that's it
that's it for me.
for this, and now we'll go to the closed session. So we adjourn this one, all right? Good.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Rick. Want to put this on pause, you said.
Very good. So thank you, Kat, for sticking around. And so we'll we'll continue to go back to open session. Where's the spoon? Yeah. In the hall, yeah. Good. And I'll turn it over to the attorney,
Okay.
correct?
Yeah, I'm gonna provide the report coming out in closed session. The board met in closed session to consider the appointment of a new general manager. And the board has determined to move forward with that appointment. And I'm gonna do an oral summary as required by the Brown Act of the key business terms of the general manager's new employment agreement. The contract term, there will not be an expiration. It would be an evergreen contract. The starting salary will be $220,000 per year. And there will be a 2.5% increase each year upon a showing of a satisfactory performance evaluation. There will also be an additional contribution of the employer's share of, into the employee's 401A account. And there will be a car allowance of $275 per pay period, with additionally mileage when the car is used for district business outside of San Mateo County. And that concludes my oral summary of the employment agreement, and I'll hand it back to the board to consider the resolution.
Very good. And I do have resolution number 2023-26, which is appointing Kat Wolfing as new general manager of the Mid-Peninsula Water District and authorizing the president of the board to execute an employment agreement with Ms. Wolfing. So whereas he is general manager from the Mid-Peninsula Water District, retired effective April 1st, 2023. And whereas the operations manager served as interim general manager for a number of months. And as whereas the Mid-Peninsula Water District engaged in a recruitment to conduct an executive search for a new general manager. And whereas several highly qualified candidates participated in the recruitment and selection process. And whereas the Mid-Peninsula Water District Board of Directors and legal counsel has successfully negotiated an employment agreement with the preferred candidate, Kat Wolfing, which agreement contains mutually acceptable compensation arrangement. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Mid-Peninsula Water District hereby appoints Kat Wolfing as the new general manager for the district and authorizes the president of the board to execute an employment agreement with Ms. Wolfing in a form approved by legal counsel. That's the resolution.
And I know that you have some things you want to go over on the agreement, which are fine, and we can do that, and Lewis is authorized to work out those issues with me and you, and substantively, the deal is in place, and we can work out whatever the little stuff you want to chat about. Excellent.
All right, so congratulations. Well, I do need a motion.
With that in mind, as a member of the GM appointment committee, I will make a motion to approve resolution 2023-26.
Very good. Second.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Vice President Zuka and a second by Mr. Wheeler. And at this point, we do a roll call. So.
You want to do a roll call?
Yes,
on the
I
appointment of
have
John
to go
Dow?
to the order, right?
We have Zuka first.
Vice President Zuga,
Yes.
Director Wheeler,
Yes.
Director Jordan,
Yes.
Director Schmidt,
Definitely.
and President Bella.
With pleasure.
Very good.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. This is, yeah, it felt like a long kind of time. I know it's only 1 year, it's like, you know, a blink of an eye, and also so long that, you know, you kind of start getting a little bit more imposter syndrome, like the longer and longer it goes, it's like, what am I doing? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm thrilled, and I think it'll be good. Also, just hearing everyone else resolution too, because, you know, we're in limbo with kind of a number of different ways to have more things solidified. It's gonna be really good for everyone too, so.
I agree. And that was one of the things that we talked about too, is wanting to give you the, firm footing to work from. So, in terms of timing, you can sit here forever and say, oh, well, you know, not yet, maybe another month, and then it's just not yet. So glad we're able to move forward.
And we think, probably if I were in your shoes, I would have said the same thing. Oh my God, what am I doing? That they're not making a decision, blah, 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 what's going on? But in reality, time actually went better for you. Time was on your side because, you were gaining from being around all these people. And we all know that we learn from the newest guy and we learn from the most experienced person or lady, whoever that is. We always open it up when you were exposed to that. So time was definitely on your side. And, with me, I would have been thankful to have that support around me.
I am, absolutely. It's like, this is complicated, a lot of things, a lot of feelings, a lot of thinking over the last year and a half.
Of course, yeah.
So,
Any comments from the board members, please feel free. Yeah. Anybody else?
Just happy to, I want to say happy to have you on board, but you've been on board
Yeah.
for this whole time, so happy to have you firmly at the helm. So looking forward to the next however many years it's gonna be.
thank you.
Hopefully, then. Yeah. Yes,
That's the plan. Congrats.
all right.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Welcome officially.
Very good. All right, so let's quit while we're ahead.
It's quick.
So at this point, we'll adjourn the meeting? Yeah. Okay, meeting adjourned.
You name it.
That's it. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.